Want to go deeper with Lobbing Scorchers? You know, scratch under the surface, get down even dirtier than we already get. Become a YouTube member. Sometimes things just get a little too spicy, a little too weird, and a little too loose for the general public. And you know, the people to see that are YouTube members. We're talking about exclusive bonus videos, the podcast after show, exclusive written content, and little bits and pieces of information before the unwashed masses know about it. As a member, you not only get access to all of this amazing content, you get a badge next to your name and a slew of amazing emotes to use, not only in our live stream chat, but also in our comments section. And yes, we do have an emote for Jesus Ferreira, Go Snack, and Paul Rothrock. This is the best way to help keep us independent and keep us building out this crazy YouTube brand that we call Lobbing Scorchers. Hit the join button down below or hit the link in the top of our description if you're on mobile to join the ranks and become a Lobbing Scorchers YouTube member.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of Under the Lights. We got a big show for you all here this evening. We're going to be talking MLS playoffs, both the Seattle Sounders ongoing series against Minnesota United and the other round one, game one results. Jeff Rueter going to be tapping in at some point to help us do that. Supposedly, I texted him. He said he's down. So we should get a Jeff Rueter cameo to talk MLS playoffs. A lot to talk about with that. I was going to give a few more thoughts on Sounders Minnesota game one. There's been the blazing hot discourse surrounding that game, as we're all aware of, and then also probably react to a few of these other game ones, and then also, folks, we got stadium discourse to get to. I wasn't expecting that when I woke up this morning. Tom, I see in the chat already bringing it up. We're gonna talk about that right at the top of the show. A new report from Sportico regarding Seattle's potential future soccer-specific stadium at Longacres and Renton. There seems to be movement on that front, so we're going to talk about that at the top of the show, then get into some playoff stuff. And I'm sure the playoff takes will carry us through most of the evening here. So I have a feeling there might still be some takes to be had regarding this game one in Minnesota. So we are going to get to all that. Before we dive in tonight, as always, like the video, sub to the channel, rate 5 stars, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, all social platforms, and also check out our interview that we just dropped a few minutes ago with Katie Wilson, mayoral candidate, Lobbing Scorchers. That's right. Politics podcast, longtime political pundits. It's our second interview with Katie Wilson. She actually, I don't know if a lot of people probably know this, but not everyone might know. Lobbing Scorchers is actually responsible. We take credit for the rise of Katie Wilson's political candidacy. We were legitimately one of the first shows to have her on for an interview when no one knew who she was. Some people knew who she was, but she was definitely not as big a deal as she is now. And she was nice enough to come back on the show. So check out the interview. It was a good interview. It's good to catch up with Katie Wilson. Election day, November 4th, coming right up. Everyone go vote. I still have to go do that. But everyone go exercise your civic duty. Check out our interview with Katie Wilson. There's some good stuff in there. And yeah, but we got soccer on the docket tonight, guys. We do. As always, if you got comments, takes, observations, agendas, grievances, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I'll get to as many as I can. I'll be hanging out for probably a couple hours here, and we should be getting that Jeff Rueter cameo at some point soon. All right, you guys want to do stadium discourse? That was the impression that I got from looking at the chat before I went live. People are hankering for the stadium discourse, and I think this is a big story. This is a big story. I don't know if you guys have seen. I'm about to pull up the Sportico tweet right now. I'm not subscribed to Sportico, so I can't see this article, but their tweet, I think, sizes up what we need to talk about here tonight. which is that they're reporting the Seattle Sounders are seeking outside investors for the first time since the club joined MLS in 2009. Not going to be so broke now, are they? Huh? The team has retained Moelis and Company to explore a, quote, strategic capital raise, according to a statement shared with Sportico. More specifically, the Sounders are looking for a large minority partner that can lend capital and expertise to the club's big project ambitions, including real estate aspirations that could include a new soccer-specific stadium at its Longacres development. So there you have it from Sportico. It sounds like Sounders brass are taking steps at least looking at this idea of building a soccer-specific stadium out at Longacres. That would be the team's home moving forward. Now, this wouldn't happen for a while, but the fact that they're looking for investors and stuff, they got a what is this company? Moelis and Company. The fact that I don't know what Moelis and Company is, but I think the fact that Moelis and Company, I don't even know if I'm saying it right. The fact that Moelis and Company, that's like a company that they do stuff, I guess, to invest and facilitate the types of projects that we're talking about here. And really, I think this affirms what we kind of already knew, which is that the people in charge of things, their ultimate hope and vision is for this team to have its own home. That's all theirs. And the site for that, it's been proposed to be Longacres, I think, this whole time, but this kind of confirms that. So let's talk about that. What do you guys think, chat? What do you think of the proposed soccer-specific stadium at Longacres? We've talked about it before, but now that there's been movement on this front, it's worth talking about again. And I was thinking about this because I've been against the idea. I haven't liked it from the beginning. And is that sentimental attachment to Lumen Field a little bit? Perhaps. But the issue I have with this idea is just that I understand the drawbacks of sharing a venue. It's not just Lumen Field, but anytime you're sharing a venue that's not yours, there is a lot of dumb bullshit that you have to deal with. We have talked about this, the monster trucks. That when you share a venue and you're an MLS team, not the NFL team, and they got a monster truck rally or a Taylor Swift concert or whatever the case may be, you're down the pecking order of the Lumen Field priorities. You end up in situations where you got football lines on the field in past years. That hasn't been an issue as much in recent years, but that is something that's an issue for MLS teams that share NFL stadiums. You got monster truck rallies. You got T Swift. You got the K-pop bands. It's not your actual home, right? And I remember being very salty about the fact that the monster trucks were going to take precedent over the CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinals or whatever that situation was. They were about to not be able to host a CCC game because of the monster trucks. Okay, so when we're talking about why they want their own place, I think that's a huge reason why. And I get that. Like, you want to have your own crib. You don't want to be renting forever. Eventually, you want to buy a house. So that's where they're coming from with the premise of the idea. So I think we should acknowledge that there's like a logic and a valid reason behind that. But where I tend to come down is that sharing Lumen Field is kind of it's the price you pay right now for having a location to play your home games that is second to none. You're not going to be able to move locations anywhere in the state of Washington. To me, that wouldn't be a downgrade from the Lumen Field location. The Lumen Field location is incredible. It's accessible. It's right in the heat of Seattle. The match days are incredible because of how the games like take over that whole surrounding Pioneer Square area. And for me personally too, I used to drive to the games. We get parking passes for media, right? I used to drive to all the games and take advantage of my parking pass, but I realized like taking the bus and the light rail is way better than driving. Would I be able to do that at the Renton Stadium, at Longacres Stadium? Maybe the plan is at some point to have accessible transportation out there, but I can't imagine it's going to be as accessible to everyone as the Lumen Field location. But this is what I was thinking about, because honestly, guys, it seems like they're committed to this. It seems like this is going down. Like it really seems like it's going down. So I've been thinking, like, what are ways they could do this that I would think could make it work and make it still a good, viable game day experience. There's two ways that I can think of. Number one, I think you need a light rail station that takes you directly to the stadium. You got to have that. That's the only way to even come close to the accessibility that we're talking about with Lumen Field. You'd have to have, I don't know if this is possible. I'm just laying out how I think they would have to do it to make it work. If you had a light rail, if you could hop on the light rail from Pioneer Square, for instance, and it could take you straight to a stop in Renton, you can still go to Sluggers and get lit and then hop on the light rail. I mean, I don't do that personally because I'm working the games, but people who want to go to Sluggers and get lit, get on the light rail. You could go, hop on, takes you down to the stadium. That wouldn't be that bad, would it? It just wouldn't have the same vibe as having it in the centralized Pioneer Square area, which I still think is an issue. But at the very least, I wouldn't mind it that much if I could hop onto any light rail station and it took me right there. That'd be okay, I guess. But here's the other kind of issue, which is that I don't know how many of you have been out to Longacres. I've spent quite a bit of time out at Longacres at this point. I haven't gone to training like on a daily basis since the Starfire days, but I've been to Longacres enough to know there's not like a lot around there. With Lumen Field, you got bars, restaurants, all kinds of stuff going on, all kinds of stuff to do close to the game, right in proximity to the stadium. The vibes are incredible. If you've been to Longacres, it's a Boeing building that they renovated and turned into a state-of-the-art soccer facility. But I think you drive by a storage facility to get there. It's like some strip mall vibe. There's nothing like the surrounding scene that Lumen Field has, which is pretty unbeatable. It's one of the better surrounding game day experiences in MLS. What are you supposed to do in the surrounding area of Longacres before the game? Now, you could do what I was saying. If they have transit, you could pregame somewhere else and then hit the train and go, I guess. It just wouldn't be the same, man. It wouldn't be the same. So I have a hard time seeing how they execute this move in a way where they retain the game day experience that they have at Lumen. We were talking about this, Jo and Noah and I, when we were pulling up to the Leagues Cup final. There's nothing when there's a big game, a big Sounders game like that, and it takes over that whole area. There's nothing like it. I don't see how you replicate that at Longacres. I don't. I have a hard time getting there. I was trying to get there today because I was like, we're probably just going to have to accept that this is happening. There's been rumblings behind the scenes on this for probably at least a year or two now. And now they got outside investors, Moelis and Company. Someone look into Moelis and Company. What's their story? I have no idea who they are, but they got Moelis and Company involved. That's a step. Now, will this happen until like 2035? Probably not, but it is going to happen at some point. And it's weird to think about. It's weird to think about these home games being played anywhere but Lumen Field. I don't know if I can process that. I don't like it. If they do this, they got to keep the turf, because I'm not going to give up other fan bases complaining about the turf. I'm not going to give that up. Outside of the fact that it is legitimately part of Seattle's home field advantage, I love the tears of other fans and players complaining about the turf. It's great. But I don't want to give that up. But in all seriousness, I don't know. What do you guys think? I haven't really been keeping track of chat, but do you think there's a way? I was doing these mental gymnastics, like, if they put the light rail there. So this is my other idea. To make it work, you would need the transportation, and then because the surrounding area right now is like Renton, an area of Renton where there's just not that much going on around Longacres. There's not. It's really like it's in a pretty random location. What you could do. Tell me what you guys think of this. What you guys think of this. St. Louis City SC, they have a thing where they basically, the whole surrounding area of their stadium, it's like a campus. They like took over the whole surrounding area and kind of like dedicated it to St. Louis City SC, as I understand it. And they've decked it out with, there's like shops and bars and restaurants, stuff to do right there. I think it's, the difference is it's like in downtown St. Louis, I think. I could be wrong about some of this. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the point is, like, they have like sort of renovated the surrounding area to make it not the same thing as what the surrounding area of Lumen Field is now, but more similar to that than it would be if the stadium was by a storage facility in Renton. I feel like they'd have to do something like that so that there's stuff to do nearby. And kind of St. Louis City SC is not the best example. I'll tell you guys a better example. Last year, for the first time, I went to Philadelphia with some friends. Had never been there, never spent much time on the East Coast. We went to a Phillies game, Sunday Night Baseball. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to Philly or Citizens Bank Park, but that was one of the sickest game day experiences that I've ever had. And the reason, and in both of those stadiums, it's the Eagles Stadium and the Phillies Stadium, they're like out in some kind of, it's not like a centralized downtown Philly area. It's like out in its own location. But what they have is they built like, it's like a superplex of like bars and restaurants and just stuff to do right on the same area as the stadiums. And it was one of the fucking coolest places I've ever been. It was so sick. Like I can't even I don't even know why. It was just like the vibes were incredible. There's plenty of stuff to do. The game day experience at the Phillies game was I haven't done much East Coast sports. They had it going on. They had it going on, and I think the reason I had so much fun was because there was so much stuff to do that they had put like right there. So, I mean, I'm not saying they have to like replicate something like that, but some sort of idea like that where they put stuff around the stadium. I feel like you got to have that. You got to have that. It can't be like at a random location in Renton with nothing going on, can it? Can it? I feel like even if they take care of the transportation aspect of that, there's just not, it's not nearly as cool as like the surrounding area of Lumen Field. There's no way to do that where it's not a downgrade in the match day experience. And on top of that, I guess my concern would be like if you put it out way out there, it makes it like I think there are probably new fans that have been gained from people who aren't necessarily soccer fans or Sounders fans being around there on a match day and being like, what's going on with this? Why are people so hyped? You see the game on the TV at the bar where you're at, maybe you get into it. Like, I feel like it's kind of limiting accessibility, or just you're not gonna discover it by chance maybe as much. People aren't. I don't know if that makes sense, but just the idea of having the games being played in this separate location that's away from everything and not in the middle of the actual city. I don't know. Yeah, it's hopium for the sake of argument. Exactly. It's not making it like St. Louis. It's my point is, like, I feel like to approach the match day experience that you have at Lumen, you need stuff around the stadium more than you have right now in Longacres. Have you guys been to Longacres? No shade at Renton. Spend some time in Renton. It's fine. It's whatever. There's just not as much going on in that exact location of Washington as there is where Lumen Field is at. So, I don't know. Those are kind of just my where my mind goes on the topic. There's a lot of sentimental attachment to Lumen Field. We've all been to the sickest games of our lives there. Also, this is the other thing, man. What's the capacity on a Longacres soccer specific stadium going to be? 30K, 40K? Lumen Field, you pack 70 for like big games. You don't pack 70 every game, but they did for the Leagues Cup final. They did for the CONCACAF Champions League final. They did for MLS Cup 2019. Maybe they do something where, if there's a game like the Leagues Cup final that has extra demand, then you play that at Lumen so you can pack in your 70 and the rest of your home games where it's only going to be 30K, which is what you get at Lumen now. I guess they could do that. But then it's like, don't you relinquish a little bit of your home field advantage because it's not the stadium that you play in every game? So even you're not as used to it anymore. Part of the home field advantage is that Seattle is so accustomed to playing on the surface, playing in the elements and how those affect the surface. All that stuff is part of what makes it a fortress, right? I don't know. So it's tough. It is tough because I understand why they want their own venue. The monster truck thing was tilting. You guys were all as tilted as I was about that. I remember that. We all heard that the monster trucks were taking precedent over CONCACAF Champions League, and that didn't sit well. So, like, if that stuff does annoy you, like I know it does annoy all of us, that's why they want their own stadium. But to me, I don't know. I kind of can't help but come down ultimately to a place where I feel like the drawbacks you have sharing a venue are the price you pay for one of the best locations and best match day experiences in MLS. A lot of stuff would have to change, man. Where would the march to the match start from? They couldn't start it where they start it now and walk to Renton. That's too far. So I don't know, man. I can't really get there on being gung ho about it, even though I understand too that there would be so many benefits to them having their own crib. There would be. Buy the West Seattle field from O'Day, build a stadium right there off the junction. That's at least still actually Seattle, but even that, even that, aren't you sacrificing? Even isn't West Seattle? West Seattle's like pretty hard to get to. There's no like transit out there, is there? This is the thing. This is the thing about Lumen. It's so easy to get to. So easy to get to. I live in Madison Valley. I hop on the G line. Takes me down kind of in the Pioneer Square vicinity. Walk to the game. Walk through Pioneer Square. It's like my little ritual. If I had to drive out to Renton for every home game, I'm going to be pissed. Not going to be happy about that. So, I don't know. The sentiment that I've gotten from the fan base is similar concerns. Like I don't. It's kind of a hard mental hurdle, I think, for anyone to think of the team playing at not Lumen. But they don't seem to be taking that into account. They want to do this. There must be so much bullshit like with sharing the stadium with the Seahawks and the monster trucks and the concerts and having to. I mean, can you guys imagine having to work with first and goal? I would be trying to get out of that too. It's easy for us to sit here and talk about our match day experience. They actually have to work with first and goal on a regular basis. Like, can you fathom that? That's like one of the worst companies I've ever seen. Like, if you want to talk about infuriating, like I don't know how many people know the lore of first and goal, but it's bad. It's bad. Having to work with that company every day. If I had to work with that company every day, I would probably want to move to Renton. So I get that. Nate, what are your complaints about the match day experience at Lumen? I'm curious. Because I don't sit in the stands. Like I don't buy tickets. I don't drink before the games. I don't do any of that. So I'm not kind of privy to what might have deteriorated. But to me, like the League's Cup final this year kind of it reinforced how good a location Lumen is. It's so good. It's so good. Build a soccer-specific stadium in Longacres, but play home games at Lumen. But then why would you... Is it like a de facto Starfire replacement? You have Defiance play there. Yeah, you play your Open Cup games there. If it's like a Starfire replacement, I guess I wouldn't really have much of an issue with that. Starfire is it's a sentimental place in its own right, and the Open Cup games are still fire. But I mean, if that's what it was, I'd be okay with that. But I don't think that's the idea. I'm pretty sure the idea is that the whole point is like they want the first team to play there. They want the first team to have just their own space where they don't have to deal with first and goal. They don't have to worry about if they can. They literally, they were going to not be able to host a CONCACAF Champions Cup game because of monster trucks. I don't know what they. There was some sort of. Maybe they were. I can't remember. How did that get resolved? How did that monster truck situation get resolved? But it's like they just don't want to have that. They want to be able to, they have a CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinal that is not on the original MLS schedule. They don't want to have to deal with like, oh, the K-pop band is actually taking that over that day. You can't play. Like, I don't want to deal with that. That stuff happens all the time. So we'll keep tabs on this. I'm sure there's more news to come. More shoes to drop as they say. And either way, I can't imagine building a stadium takes like they can't get their act together on that for anything less than like 10 to 12 years, I swear. Like it's we're probably talking about like 2038 by the time they build this thing. But, you know, maybe not. They seem pretty motivated to get it done. They got outside investors. I think people are coming up with interesting ideas. It's just like I don't know if there's a single idea that you can come up with that's going to be as good as Lumen. I don't know if that location exists. It's the best location. It's one of the best locations in the league. They've had some of the best, they've hosted some of the best games that have ever been played, not just for the club, but I would argue for the league there. The aesthetic of it, not of the playing surface. I get that the turf is not great and it's beat up. But I think Lumen Field looks awesome on TV for both for Seahawks and Sounders. And I think there's also an element of like actually playing in the heat of Seattle. Doesn't it kind of make the team feel more kind of authentic to Seattle? I'm not saying playing in Renton would make it inauthentic to Seattle, but I do think like when people make New Jersey jokes about the Red Bulls, they don't play in the state that they don't play in the same state. This would be different. It would at least be in the same state. But like I think there is an issue there there has been an issue there with them not people feeling like they're not authentic to New York. Is that fair or not? I don't know, but if you literally play in a different, you call yourself New York and you play in New Jersey, you open yourself up to that. And that's kind of how the concept of NYCFC came to be. Like a team that was actually based in New York City. Now they play in the Yankees and the Mets outfield. That's their stadium situation. They're supposedly building one, right? But yeah, like the 49ers playing in Santa Clara. That's whack. That is whack. And this is that vibe. I feel like moving to Renton is that vibe. How are you going to call yourself the San Francisco 49ers and play in Santa Clara? This would kind of be that. I'd argue not at playing in Santa Clara is egregious. But if people were going to say that playing in Renton is egregious for the same reason, can I really argue that? LA Galaxy and Carson, exactly. You're becoming that. That is what I would caution. That's what I would caution the people who make these decisions. Purely optically, you're making yourself looking like the LA Galaxy playing in Carson. You are. You can say you don't care about that or that's not a bad thing. But that is going to be the narrative. People are going to question the authenticity to actual Seattle. So, I don't know. Like I said, I've been thinking of ways that they can make it work. I feel like if they create like a legitimately good and viable, accessible transit system to get out to this theoretical stadium, and it's like super easy to just hop on a train, pops you out right there. That would be one thing that could, I think, at least make it viable. And then also what I was saying about just, I think you gotta have more stuff around the actual stadium than they got around Longacres right now. There's nothing really out there. It's like office buildings, like I said, storage facilities, strip mall vibes. It's that kind of place. So I don't know. I can't really get there, but if you got any more thoughts on stadium discourse, you can keep cooking in chat. If you're feeling compelled, you can also lay down your thoughts in the comments. It's going to be a hot button issue because they're trying to make this happen. They're trying to make it happen. That's pretty much all I had on stadium discourse. You guys want to do playoff discourse? Hit a little playoff discourse. We got Sounders Loons to talk about. We'll talk about that with Jeff when he taps in. I have faith that he's going to tap in. Let's see if he's texting me. He hasn't, but oh yeah, he has. 8:15. All right, we got Jeff in 10 minutes. Perfect. So I'll just kind of cook on my initial playoff takes until Jeff pulls up, and he's based in Minnesota. He knows what's up with the Loons more than anyone. I feel a little like the last time I talked about Minnesota United, I was not aware of how extreme Ramsey ball is. I knew about it. We talked about it. We talked about it before the first time these teams played, because that was right around when the pundits and the stats people were like, this team doesn't ever have the ball ever. They have it like 20% of every game. What is this? So I remember talking to Jeff about that, but I didn't understand the gravity of it, chat. I didn't understand the gravity of what we were dealing with this team. The team that we're dealing with right now are menaces to society with how they play this game. And I don't even say that as I don't even say that in a derogatory way. I think that even their fans have to admit this. We all see how these games are going. Not just when they play the Sounders, but they do that every game. They do that every game. Every game. It's just how they play. So with that in mind, I had a few things I wanted to talk about from game one that we addressed on the post-game show. But I think there's more to be said. Let's start, chat, with this Jackson Reagan penalty discourse, because we have lost the plot, I fear, on this. Number one, we lost the plot, I think, in a couple ways. But starting with this Jackson Reagan penalty discourse, which after a game that they won in penalties, Eric Ramsey and the entire state of Minnesota evidently are still steamed that Jackson Reagan wasn't called for a penalty on that early breakaway that Bongi had. They think it was a penalty and a dog so red. Minnesota should have been up a man for that entire game. That would have guaranteed the win. I think this is how the thinking goes. They're steaming mad about this call. Eric Ramsey, in a game that he won, he dedicated like 10 minutes of his presser to this call. He said it was one of the most stone cold penalties he's ever seen. He basically said it was the worst call he's ever seen in his life. Which I'll just reiterate, I guess, what I gave my original take from the post-game show on this call. Which, first of all, I think that I've watched that play several times, and if you want to argue that Jackson Reagan and the Sounders kind of got away with one on that play, I mean, there's an argument there. I'm not. There is full extension and there's a push. There's a push. There's a push when he's shooting. He goes down. He is the last guy back. And like when I say get away with one, if that had been called a penalty, it wouldn't have been like the craziest thing I've ever seen. I'll say that. And I'll also say, I was listening to Nos Audietas with Jo and Aaron, and they were talking about they were talking about it from the standpoint of how I always try to think of it, which is just if you did a role reversal and a Seattle player was on the receiving end of that, and it was a Minnesota defender who perpetuated it, how would I feel? Would I feel aggrieved? They were saying they wouldn't feel that aggrieved. I could see myself being aggrieved. I know myself well enough that I could see myself that if the Sounders player was subject to that exact same play, I would be saying shit like, if it's a push, it's a push. He pushed him. You have full extension. He falls over. What are we doing? That should be a penalty. That's a dog. So I could see myself saying that. So if you want to say that Seattle arguably got away with one on that play, I actually really don't have any issue with that take. They probably, you could say they got away with one there. However, am I taking crazy pills? Or did Minnesota United in this exact same game get away with an equally egregious? It was more egregious. It was more egregious. I challenge any Loons fan or anybody from any fan base to watch that play where Jordan Morris has a header on target, and I think it was Pereira, blocks it with his hand off the line. That is a penalty. That is a dog so red. If you swat a ball off the line with your hand, that is a dog so red. It's a dog so red. The reason that was not a penalty and a dog so red for Seattle was because they called a foul on Paul Rothrock for pushing over Michael Boxall before Jordan took the shot. That was not a foul. Go watch the clip if you're trying to tell me that was a foul. There's no way. There is no way in any chance, in any dimension. If you are actually going to watch that clip and tell me that was a foul on Paul Rothrock, you are delusional. Like, we got to be serious here. We got to be serious. That's not a foul. He does not push him. Boxall goes down, and he drew the foul. Little gamesmanship there for Mikey Box, okay? Fair play, honestly. Fair play. But if we're talking about Seattle getting off easy on that first call, that fully evened out. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. The dog so red that Minnesota got away with was a worse call. It was a worse call. Now, you could say, oh, well, if they get the call right on the Jackson Reagan play, Seattle's down a man pretty much the whole game. Minnesota gets a penalty. They're for sure going to win playing up a goal and a man for that long. The thing is, like, you don't actually know that. The Portland Timbies were down a man for like the last half hour of their match against San Diego, and they almost tied the game. So you don't know what's going to happen, number one. And number two, that whole situation fully evened out as far as I'm concerned. So that's my take on that. I was planning on giving a couple more takes before Jeff popped in, but we got him here right now. So on that, let's bring him to the stage, folks. It's Jeff Rueter.
I want more takes. Sorry.
Formerly
I speak for the chat. We want more takes.
More takes. Formerly of The Athletic, now got a new Substack called Five-A-Side. That's the right name, right?
Yeah, you nailed it. You're the first person to say it out loud. That's actually kind of nice to hear. It's fun. It's
new. Substack.
Yeah.
Jeff, thank you so much for joining the show to talk some Minnesota United, Seattle Sounders, and MLS playoffs with us. How are you doing? And why don't you tell the people about Five-A-Side, your new project?
That's really funny. I'm realizing right now, partly I set up lighting better. I look so much more rested than when I was on the show last, which is I look you can tell that I haven't been doing much work lately. I'm all right. Yeah. I mean, like, look, I've wrote about this already. I talked about this on the Total Soccer Show. My final day at The Athletic was on October 10th. So I am a 20-day free agent at this point. It's an interesting experience. It's weird. Like I wrote 15 to 25 pieces a month for The Athletic from 2018 really until, well, September. And, when you suddenly go to like, no one is expecting me to write for them and I am not producing coverage for over a month, it does really weird things to the brain. So, admittedly shaking that up and open, like I was diagnosed with depression over a decade ago. So, that's a fun way to kick off the episode, but it's nice. Like this sort of things in a weird way, the Substack needed to start because the playoffs were coming up. And I think it was just like such an obvious moment where I just needed to be able to just like cover something normally. I know how to cover the MLS Cup playoffs, even in this weird format. So like, being able to do that, continuing to do a total soccer show, getting appearances like this one, like I really do appreciate it. And Five Asides is just the latest kind of iteration of it. It's a free Substack. I won't ask for any money through the rest of the year for a few reasons. But yeah, I'm covering my whole wide array. I already did my playoff preview, my first one, and then I dropped one tonight that I'll post on social tomorrow that covers women's national team, men's national team, New York Red Bulls, NWSL, and Football Manager 26. So a little of everything, I guess. See what sticks.
Hell yeah. So how does Substack work? Like if you have it free right now, do people still go there to subscribe, or is it just you go read it and then when
so the perk if you subscribe, and I came up with it today, is you will get it like 12 hours before everyone else, and I guess they can find it. But basically if you subscribe, you get it to your email sent to you directly. It's free. And you can pledge. I still have no idea if I'll ever monetize this thing. I just have not thought that far ahead about it yet for a few reasons. But just go ahead, just follow it. I'll try to keep up with keeping something out every single week. Maybe I'll spread out the cadence so it's a little more regular. This piece, I'm testing it with this one, fair warning. It's like a 4,000 word post on 5 different topics. It's like insane. And it's probably a multi-sitting. It's definitely a multi-trip to the bathroom piece. So that's okay too. I hope it is. If it's not a multi-trip to the bathroom piece, then like I hope you're doing okay.
Yeah, that's the Jeff Rueter trademark. You got it.
Yes. Yeah.
Going long form. Now I know I've been keeping up with Five Asides so far. It's great stuff. Everyone in chat, go check it out. Toss him a sub. Jeff Rueter, one of the best in the game. And he's got it going on Five Aside, in-depth coverage on everything MLS and right now the MLS playoffs. So definitely show him some support. Jeff, thanks for hopping on with us this evening. Let's talk some Major League Soccer and the MLS Cup playoffs because you're based in Minnesota. You've been on the show I think a couple times to talk about Minnesota United, and these two teams are currently in a round one best of 3 playoff series. And game one, there were no goals from open play, but there was discourse coming out of this game. I feel like this is almost this is sort of kind of becoming a Western Conference rivalry, I think, in a bigger way I think after this series, with how hot this discourse has been so far, there's like some bad blood, some animosity brewing between the fan bases. But I guess let's start with why that is, because Jeff, we got to talk about Ramsey ball. We talked about it.
I think it goes back a little further than this year, but yeah, let's start with that.
See, I guess I was not as aware of that. And
2020 Western Conference Final, I think it's just this indignant.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the rivalry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm talking about the rivalry. Yeah. Let's go in with the why the series has this weird tone to it. Though.
Well, I think you're right. Like the playoff history has created the foundation of the rivalry because Minnesota United has been eliminated by Seattle from the playoffs. Like
they bottled it in the Western Conference Final in 2020.
Yeah, it was a great day. We all look back on that and remember it fondly. Shout out Gustav Svensson. That was actually not fun at all because that was the COVID Cup year.
I know
that game was in an empty ass stadium, and I actually remember when Gustav Svensson scored that game-winning goal, and the emotion that I felt was literally it was sadness because
you couldn't be there.
I was there. They let media in.
Oh, that's good. That's right.
But we were the only people there.
That's very sad. That's worse.
Exactly.
That's comfortably worse.
There was it was like all those games. You remember that shit? That was weird. Yep. All those games in the empty stadiums. They had like the crowd noise pumped in. But like I just remember Gustav Svensson scoring that game winner and being like, "This is like, God, I wish the crowd was here so bad." Because
was that one of the stadiums that had any sections with cardboard cutouts? Like, please tell me
no,
that there weren't. Okay,
no, it was
that would be
empty.
like brutal.
I remember it being empty. I think they were doing the crowd noise stuff, but that made it worse. It was like, because this isn't real. This is all.
It reminds you how like perverse the world around you is, even when you have the most normal thing, and the Sounders are making their like 4th MLS Cup in 5 seasons.
Yeah, exactly. It was such it was such a great moment, though. Like game-winning conference final goal if y'all remember in that game, Seattle was down 2-0 in like the 70 whatever minute.
I think 70, 72, something like that. Yeah,
and they equalized. Rui Diaz equalizes on 88. And then Gustav Svensson, they scored like 3 goals in the last like 17 minutes of the game. It was awesome. It was great.
It didn't even need extra time. Yeah,
it was just hella weird because no one was there to see it. And then and there was no subsequent MLS Cup that year. Nothing. There was no game.
Nothing. No, it was just crazy. They just was just like, there's just no reason.
That was it
for
the season.
Tell you what, and even if you look at what venue is it at? No team plays there anymore. Like it's a ghost town. Like it truly has been erased away.
Roberto,
never heard of it.
Roberto saying low-key one of my faves because you could hear the team celebrating. I didn't see it like that, but I did think when they had the MLS's back tournament in the Orlando bubble, it was kind of interesting getting to hear like what the players are saying. I wasn't there, but like when you were watching it on the broadcast.
Oh, sure. I was gonna say like we're gonna have to pivot this entire interview to your experience in the bubble.
You could hear what they were saying on the field on the broadcast, and it was like, oh, okay, this is like this is literally just exactly what they say in the middle of a professional soccer game. You get
of course.
Yeah. So that was kind of it, but being at Lumen for a conference final game winner with no crowd, that I just kind of sucked, honestly. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But anyway, Jeff, looking at this series that Minnesota and Seattle are playing right now, budding rivalry. And I think a lot of us here in the city of Seattle are salty about how hard the Sounders got Ramsey'd in that first game. We all knew it was coming. We knew it was coming. These teams have played twice this year. I would say the first game in Seattle was a little more of an open, normalish soccer game.
I'd agree.
And the subsequent 2 have been. The second one at Allianz Field was not. That was, I call it radical extremism. Okay. When we're talking over 70% of possession getting yielded, but it's not even just the stats of it. It's the way they do it. Like all of the sequences where they literally pretty much give the ball to Seattle. And then they
kick off and all
then
that.
They set up that block that is just so deep. Yeah. And then they say you just knock it around as much as you want. And Seattle has really struggled, I think, finding the balance of the patience you need to go against a style with like picking your spots to be aggressive, but not getting lulled into what they want you to do, which is get frustrated and get reckless and get sloppy and make bad giveaways and let them get off on their counters. And they just lean into it to such an extreme degree that look, I've seen Seattle play against a lot of teams that play quote unquote negative soccer. I've seen them I have to break down a lot of low blocks. It's not uncommon for teams to come into Lumen Field and play like that. But this just feels different to me, number one, because they're the road team in this situation. They do this at home.
I know.
They do this at home.
Yeah,
and like me looking at that, I'm like, when you're on the road, I get it. That's a lot of teams do that. But to lean into it to that extreme a degree at home and see out a 0-0 at home and win on penalties, there's I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. There's something I think that feels dishonorable.
You feel like it's like the grifter state of America coming to hit MLS Cup playoffs.
What is your honest take on this Ramsey ball? Do you think he's justified in this, or does he take it too far? Because it's tough. Because I'm like, I think he takes it too far. But they won the game. Mm-hmm. This format, you can win game one in penalties like that. They won the game. Yeah. So who am I to question the methods, I guess? Do you think the ends justify the means, or is this radical extremism?
I mean, they do justify the means, right? Like, I think that you can say the ends do to a degree here. I'll preface this by saying I'm not a Minnesota United fan. Like, I disavowed when they went up to Major League Soccer in 2017, and I've been indie on them since. Obviously, I cover them very closely, or at least they're my lens through which I've learned about other MLS teams, is seeing them in Allianz Field, right? So I'm just saying that first. I'm not being like an indignant fan here when I say I don't really think that. I think that they're doing it because it works. I don't think they're doing it because this is what they want to be doing, per se. Like, I got the sense when they brought in Julian Gressel. So keep in mind, Inter Miami, they weren't going to have a senior roster slot. Talking about a lot in the spring window where we're getting to May or whatever. And it was pretty clear that they were just going to have to like find one of those really stupid MLS procedural ways to get rid of him. So they waive Julian Gressel. Minnesota United picks him up. And then it's announced that Inter Miami is still covering the majority of Julian Gressel's salary, which is just like, again, only in MLS do you run into this sort of stuff. Anyway, so when you bring in a player like Julian Gressel, it implies you want to do good things on the ball. At this stage of his career, Julian Gressel is much more useful in possession than out of it. I think that he'll admit it as well, right? It's one of those reasons why, like, in Vancouver, he was occasionally playing as a number 8, but ever since, you've kind of only seen him play as a right wing back. And part of that is just his crossing is so good that you want to lean into that. But it's also strong foot on the outside. So the idea is you have a guy who, rather than inverting and dribbling inward, is going to get it on his strong foot, dribble upfield, progress play up there where there are fewer defenders and the rest of your team can move forward. It's good for using possession, right? I assumed there would be 2 or 3 other players at the start of the summer come in, center backs maybe, but center back has always been one of their areas of strength this year. They have a pretty set back 3 with Nicholas Romero, Michael Boxall, and Jefferson Diaz, who has started the majority of their games. So I thought it would be the midfielder. They bring in a defensive midfielder. They got super late. Nectarios Triantis scored a goal from beyond half field against San Diego in the regular season. Looked really good. Probably the man of the match. I think he was officially the man of the match, actually. I think about it against Seattle, just in the 90 minutes and what he was able to do from a Minnesota perspective. I think that Seattle outperformed Minnesota. So the man of the match is probably on the losing side in this one. Where it gets interesting to me, though, is that those moves didn't come. And they wrote it out with the same players. I think that they were constantly in these, like, I think back half of the window, they were like, okay, we're gonna bring in the players now. We're gonna do it. And they didn't like the market valuations in Minnesota. It came out this week. Minnesota is still one of the lowest spending organizations. They spend even less on transfer fees to scale than they do on salaries compared to the rest of Major League Soccer. They just are Philadelphia level with this sort of stuff right now to scale to the rest of Major League Soccer. Vancouver is spending bigger transfers like this now. Players don't arrive. Late in the window, they suddenly do like a deluge of transfers. And this happens kind of like, none of these are like Heung-min Son or Thomas Muller. So they're like, it's Triantis, but it's also like a guy named Dominic Fitz and like a young Costa Rican winger on a team that doesn't play with wingers. And it's a lot of these moves that don't look like their first team moves. They look like they're moves for the future. They look like the market presented these opportunities we had to bring in. And so then they get rid of some players. Daniel Oluwaseyi, someone who really helped them in transition to hold the ball for maybe that extra 2% because it was like a 2-forward system with him and Kelvin Yeboah. He's gone. He's off to Villarreal. He's already in the bench for Champions League games. It's crazy. You've got Joaquin Pereira was rumored or was in talks to go to Trabzonspor and ultimately turned them down. That package was rejected. So he sticks around. He signed an extension probably to boost his transfer value. But you didn't make the changes necessary to do more in possession stuff, which is what the team has kind of been clamoring for since last year. So you lean into the pragmatism. You look at their results when you exit the window. Pretty soon after, they lose in the Open Cup semifinal to Austin FC. And pretty much from that moment on, it's just been like, you know what? We've got our one trick. It's working really well. When we try to do other stuff and we overextend ourselves, and Kelvin Yeboah gets hurt, by the way, and he's our only like MLS level striker. So now we're playing with non-strikers. We just have to go into this sort of like, let's just not embarrass ourselves in possession. Let's try to create some chances, all these sorts of things. But mainly our bread and butter is going to be we defend and we do set pieces. And that's all they're doing right now. And I think it is as simple as the squad never got evolved to a point to do more than that. And I think that has more to do with Khaled El Ahmad, the CSO. You can read him in Backfield this week, kind of talking about, it's budgetary. It's budgetary. You can get players who like the ball for cheap. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things where I don't think you can say it's because of that, but I can say if you're doing that and you're only viewing the transfer market through opportunism, he was the CEO of Barnsley previously, his last job. So he also has that sort of like market valuation sort of brain that I don't quite have tailored. It's why I'm not a CEO. I'm not even employed. He goes through all of these sorts of things and is just like, nope, you're offering me too little. feel like I'm getting bought over. So you wait till the final minute. So now you also don't have time to train these guys in. They're not getting acclimated through the Leagues Cup. They're not getting, integrated before. You had players making their full debuts for the team in the second half of a semifinal of a tournament. Like, that's not where you want to go on your bench. So I think this is squad management wise. And I think it's squad management that goes above the coach here. And it's just really funny. Like, you look at their possession per game, and it has dropped as the season has gone, right? Like, I think that pretty much all of their games at this point, since I'm looking at a list of them, I think all of their games since August have pretty much been...
It's 70-30.
Like 70-30, 40-60.
Yeah. Like 40-60 is like, whoa, why you guys have the ball that much?
It's greedy much, yeah.
40, you get into 40 there. Like, that's... I'm used to seeing this squad play at 70-30, but everything you laid out there, that does explain it, and that's different than what I thought the situation was. I legitimately thought that Eric Ramsey was just a radical ideologue that has some
because he was the set piece guy for Ten Hag, right? Keep in mind that was his last job too.
He's the set piece guy, and like I don't know, I just thought like, okay, this guy must think he has some way of playing the game that I think pragmatism is a way to describe it, but it's also just like risk averse, maybe conservative. Sure, yeah. And like, if you're more risk averse and conservative, you're harder to beat, and that gives you a better chance to win. And especially like, I thought the budget stuff and the roster stuff that you're talking about is why I figured they thought a coach like that would be a good fit for them. But from what you're saying, it sounds like it's more out of necessity because of where the roster is right now. And if they had personnel where they could play a little more with the ball, they would do that, and they want to do that at some point. They just kind of can't right now. So they're doing the absorb pressure and just be the greatest set piece team on the planet. And that's what we're going to do for right now. And then we'll think about like evolving our style of play later. Is that essentially, do you think they're going to try and get personnel to change this style?
Cut out for a sec here, so apologies if I'm...
Oh no, you're good. You did.
I was posting the stream and I
sick.
I slowed my internet. That's such bad etiquette.
Did you hear my?
It does, like, it is pragmatism to a degree, but I think it's also pragmatism that hasn't been fully leaned into, in functional ways, I guess. Does that make sense? Now I've got you back. Like, it's not necessarily like this was all part of the plan. I think some of this was not part of the plan, or I think that they got to a certain step of the plan. They were ready to make the next step. Kelvin gets injured, that Tani gets sold. They didn't bring in a backup striker. And the plan is suddenly, well, this part of the plan was kind of working, wasn't it? So I think that it was a lot of leaning into the bit just because it was what was working at that point. But it's weird. I can tell you now, like, going to, I think I was probably at 7-8 Loons games this year, which is solid. Like, I try to go, I'd never make it to even half the games anymore. Every game is kicking off at the same time, and I have to watch other teams across the league too. Anyway, thanks, MLS. The mood in the stadium, if they're playing an opponent that's perceived, let's just make it easier, an opponent that's lower in the table, if Kansas City's coming to town, if the Galaxy are coming to town, whatever, and they're scoreless, it is like the most frustrated that a fan base has ever seemed when they're not losing. Because it's just like, I don't see how we're going to do this until we knock it off a guy's shin towards the end line and get a corner kick.
Or just pull a set piece, just a free kick out of nowhere.
But then,
and they always score.
But then you get the set pieces, and this stadium was designed really well, where like it was trying to stay compact with the crowd. So the idea, instead of spacing the crowd out like a lot of venues do, kind of build the first and second deck atop each other so that it stays in, and it's like a very like old school English whatever to keep the sound in, whatever. When they get a set piece of any kind, this could be Dayne St. Clair right at the halfway line, this could be Michael Boxall taking a long throw from 35 yards up the touchline, it could be a corner kick. It started with corner kicks in 2010 in the NASL era. Twirling scarves, here we go. Everyone is so into it, and I think that it's tapped into this weird, like, the bandwagon fans that are also going to 2 or 3 Vikings games in a year and know the skull and the stomp, stomp, clap and the flugelhorn. I don't actually know the gellhorn, I want to say. I'm not a great Vikings fan. When that atmosphere is happening, it can happen in American sports because you know what the moments are. It's stop, start. It is actions that you're watching happen one after the other in sequence rather than constant motion. A lot of Americans don't know what to cheer for in soccer. Keep in mind, they're not like up at 10:30 Central watching us. You know what I mean? Like they are not as plugged into it. And so for those families who are taking the kids there on a Saturday, everyone's getting excited because the ball has stopped. Minnesota's about to lob it in, and sometimes they score and they do it more and their opponents look miserable while it's happening. Yeah, that sounds like a thing an American sports fan can get behind, right? Like it's as simple as that.
It's a decent bit. Like the fact that they have gotten this good at executing it. I can respect the bit, I guess, but it doesn't make it any less frustrating to watch. Do you think they can win MLS Cup like this? Because I just don't think there's any way, Jeff. They might win this series against Seattle, maybe, and they are so good at executing on this style that maybe if they run up against Vancouver or in LA, you never know. There'll be single elimination games after that. So, you can always penalty your way to victory, but like, I just think there's a certain point where you have to be able to play with the ball. Eventually, right now, you're playing a Seattle team that is down its best and most creative attacker, Pedro De La Vega. And when Seattle doesn't have De La Vega in the lineup, their ability to combat tactics like these is diminished. If you're going up against Son Heung-min and Denny Bouanga or Thomas Mueller and
I've heard of them
and the gang, it's gonna run out. You can't do it. Like they're gonna try. God love them. They're gonna try. But I think this is gonna run out. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I was saying on Total Soccer Show, I think we got to transfer deadline day-ish mid-August, and we were saying it looked like there were still like 14 teams you could talk yourself into winning MLS Cup. And the idea was that it was all 9 teams in the East. You can see what their paths are. All of them have more than 1.5 points per game. And that was the strict cutoff. And then you had Minnesota and Seattle at the bottom of the West, so to speak, where it was like any of these teams and up. I could see it. And then Orlando kind of eliminated themselves by proxy even before the play-in game.
Yeah.
I stuck with Seattle, my preseason MLS Cup pick, and part of that was just cowardly, not wanting to jump off of it. But part of it is I can still see the path for them, right? And I think that the path for them is uglier than it was with Pedro De La Vega, but I can still see it. I know how the 25 Sounders end up lifting the Anschutz. I have a much harder time picking the scenarios, and you got to it. It's the matchups more than anything else. When you're looking down the stretch, the teams that they beat are other teams that are fully committing to their own gambit, so they know how to game plan the defense. Look at the San Diego game. It's a great example. I actually think whatever team advances from Minnesota, Seattle, no matter who it is, I prefer them over San Diego to get to the conference final, because I think with San Diego, their model is so staunch, and there's a lot of really good off-ball movement and whatever, but if you set up your defense right, you can make those lanes. You can close the lanes that are most dangerous to them, and you have enough data after a full season where you can see if they make these runs, if they get in these spaces, they don't have the personnel, they don't have the technique to execute and make you sweat. So put them there, right? It's the whole like James Harden only shoots 2-pointers and everyone wanted him to shoot elsewhere. You know what I mean? Like it's just like that. Find those lower efficiency areas and push them into there. And Minnesota did that very well in September, and they got a 3-1 win. Wasn't a fluke whatsoever. Dreyer was out there. I think I can't remember if Chucky was starting too, but it worked really well there. I think you get to teams that have more talent and therefore a greater ability. No disrespect, San Diego. Minnesota's in this camp too. You get to teams like LAFC and Seattle, I would argue, and Vancouver, and you get to maybe 2 of the teams in the East, and I think that there's just too much for this cute of a tactic to persevere. I really do. And I think that there are just limitations sincerely in personnel. I don't think that they have many players who can create chances from the run of play, and I think that you need to do that. I think that they really struggle if Kelvin Yeboah can't be on the field, and right now he looks like he's about a 30, 45-minute player. I don't know how soon he'll be better than that too. I don't know what the timeline is for a full recovery from the kind of quad injury that he suffered in the Open Cup semifinal. So I think that there are limits too, have we seen it work? Sure. Greece won a Euro, Portugal won a Euro. Yeah, exactly. Both of them played the worst soccer I've seen in my life. If everyone ever tells you that Europeans are the only ones who know how to make soccer look pretty, like they don't know ball at all. It can work. You can get through it. But I think that will have as much to do with opponents failing. Here's what it is. It's opportunism. If opponents kind of fail to take their chances that they generate, like the Seattle Sounders did, Minnesota can get past them because they have the ace in the hole other teams can't fully contain. If teams are less wasteful than the Sounders have been in their last 2 trips to Allianz Field, counting the 1-0 defeat where Osaze skies 2 over the bar, Seattle's advancing in 2 games. That's all it is. Seattle right now, the issue is that the attack never had enough time to calibrate. And by the time it finally looked like you could get your A team out there, Pedro's gone and you've lost a lot of your verve. It's a lot of players who don't know how to play with each other, and certainly not in this situation, and certainly not a defense as well organized as Minnesota. That's what it is. It's a lot of we're settling for the second chance. And they didn't really know how to unlock the first, and the movement was just a little bit off, and the passes were just a little bit off, and the shots were just a little bit too close to body parts and all these sorts of things. And like, it is what it is. And sometimes ball goes in, sometimes ball doesn't. And lately ball has not been for Seattle when Seattle in St. Paul.
Yeah, it did not go in this game. And that's kind of, this is going to sound like me being salty, some Seattle salt. But I don't care.
It's salt. It's good salt.
I'm going to say it even though it's salty anyway. I've seen a lot of punditry and takes to the effect of like, oh, well, I mean, Minnesota United, they executed these tactics they have so well. What an incredible defensive performance they put forth to shut out Seattle, and giving them, all this credit for it, which I guess is to be expected because they won the shootout. But when I think about how well they actually executed their game plan, and I guess specifically their defensive performance as a whole, it was an okay defensive performance. It wasn't that good.
It wasn't good by their standard, I'll tell you that.
They didn't execute it that well. They gave up over 2 XG. Can you tell me any 2 much better chances that you could ask for than the ones that Musovski had at the end?
No,
those are the exact types of chances that Seattle wants and needs to be generated. They generated 2 of them at the very end after they subbed Musovski on, and the whole offense looked a lot better. They got 2 of the exact type of chances that they want, and that for Moose, he's been finishing those all season.
I was gonna say, does he make those 2 months ago when he's starting regularly and he has the just like the headspace of a striker who has less to?
It's a fair question. He hasn't been missing those. He got the looks that he needed. Minnesota gave up the looks that he needed, and they just didn't make them. Any game where you put up as much XG as Seattle did in this game, and you get out of it with the other team not scoring, you got lucky, and that's all it was.
That's a lot of what it was. Yeah.
They gave up those 2 chances at the end, but you have the one that the corner kick that Christian has cleared off the line. You had the header from Yamar that wasn't high by much. You have Dayne St. Clair going God mode and making a couple of really crazy saves. And all told, you have a game where, congratulations, you saw out a 0-0 draw at home and won in penalties, but you did not execute the game plan and the tactics that you've been playing this season that well. And if you're being serious and you're being real, you got lucky, and that's probably not going to see you through an entire playoff run. It's just not. It got you through 1 game, so I can't argue with that. And is that salty? Yeah, but we all had to sit there and watch Seattle play that style of game, and it doesn't get more frustrating than that. And then on top of that, it was the exact kind of same story as the last game at Allianz Field, which makes it even more frustrating. But I will tell you this: if Minnesota United give up 2+ XG at Lumen Field on Monday, they're not walking out of there having moved on. They're not. So they better hope that they execute a hell of a lot better in Seattle than they did.
You're saying that the team that won the shootout needs to execute better? My guy.
Well, okay.
Seattle. No. Here's the thing. Here's the one thing I will say. You're blaming Minnesota for Seattle. losing?
No, I'm not.
Here's the opposite case of all this. Okay, Minnesota didn't execute it as well as they usually do. If they might execute it better the next game when they're not at home,
when they're on the road,
they're going to improve away from home. So Seattle needs to be better. Maybe the guy who led your team in goals is going to be a little bit pissed off in his head when he's starting when the first playoff game kicks off and he's on the bench. That might happen.
He better not be on the bench for this game.
I'm saying, like, these are the decisions that end up being made. Maybe that's not the right call. Maybe the penalty sequencing. Maybe you just need to rotate in who that front four is. Maybe you need to put Manungu in just for something different. You have to control your own here. Here's where Minnesota beats teams, because teams think exactly like you just did, Ari. Where it's just like, it's so stupid, it's so negative. Why the fuck would anyone want to play that sort of thing? I can't imagine these guys even want to like hug and kiss their wives when they get home or anything like that. Tough shit, man. They got results. You're mad.
No, I can't argue with that.
That's what every team does against it. You're letting them win. It's not any sort of thing. Like, you fell for it, and that's okay. I get it. A lot of teams have been this year. Miami did. In gruesome fashion. I know that they're one of the mentally weakest teams in MLS history when you look at like the 2025 Inter Miami. So like, that is not a good standard for it, but it's not just a thing that's happening in these elimination games. It's been happening all year long. And so I think if you're Minnesota, you're looking at it and you're just saying, look, maybe Yeboah is closer to being a 60-minute guy. And now they're going to have to ask questions for the rest of the playoffs. Pretty much, what's more important to you, having Kelvin Yeboah from the start so your team functions for the longest period of the game possible, or having Kelvin Yeboah on the field when the penalty shootout begins? Because you probably can't guarantee both things. So the lineup is going to be a weird decision for Ramsey again on Monday as well. Yeah, but I think that overall, the only other thing I will say, I was just looking at the data here. Minnesota won 60.5% of duels. So just two guys going in, who comes out with the ball. Minnesota came out with it 60% of the time. This is where Triantis was really like mopping up against Vargas and rolled on in a way I haven't seen them lose these battles often. Yeah. That's their second highest rate of winning duels this year. And when you look at it from a Seattle perspective, and you're looking at the duels, so that would be 39.5% if my math checks out, right? That is their second worst showing, besides a 2-1 loss at Austin in September. So, like, it's as simple as that, man. Like, Minnesota had that dog in them, even if it didn't show up in the final third. But they neutralized what was Seattle's biggest strength all year, which was the two-man tandem of the midfield, is at least coherent enough where games are never going to get out of hand, and Seattle is always going to get the ball back. And Roldan and Vargas just did not do that. And they got beaten by a team that only got a defensive midfielder like 2 months ago.
It was a good defensive performance in that way. You're right. The double pivot for Seattle was not.
I'm still saying Minnesota underperformed from their defense, by the way, but
no, they did.
They got your midfield.
Yes, they got the midfield, and you're right. Like, it's not blaming Minnesota and crashing out over their tactics like we've all been doing. It might be satisfying.
It's been fun. It's good to watch.
It's good content, but like ultimately, if you want to beat it, you gotta score. And Seattle did not do that. And because of that, after they win the shootout, if their fans want to say, hey, we got the win, cry about it, score one next time, can you really argue with that? No, you can't. And that might be frustrating to have to admit or acknowledge. But the reality is, like, if you're Seattle and you don't execute better on your chances in the next game, like you said, the same thing could happen to you again. But that brings that's a good segue into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is there's been a lot of talk about Schmetzer's decision in the penalty shootout to leave Stephen Fry in there and not make any sort of specialist type substitution of Andrew Thomas for the shootout. He left Steph Fry in there, and that shootout was a mismatch. Like,
I mean, it wasn't a great shootout either, right? Like, neither team was really kicking their best at all, right? Like, Seattle, certainly Schmetz had his comments, but Minnesota wasn't necessarily taking like
no, but like, to me, it's sort of what happened with the shooters is almost besides the point. This
is St. Clair in his prime.
Well, it's just that I feel like penalties are very, very like random and up to chance.
Oh, I hate them as a decider after 90 minutes in a playoff game. I think it's the worst idea to have this in the first round. Leagues Cup is fine. Leagues Cup is a fake tournament, but like in the playoffs, you should make them play 30 more minutes. So put me on the record on that too.
But like, the guys who missed Seattle's penalties, I'm not gonna crush them for that, because missed penalties are part of the game. It happens. It's a gamble. It's a dice roll. There's not really like that much of a logic or a reason or science to it. However, I will say, in this situation, with the goalkeepers, it is a tough situation. It's a hard situation. It's not an easy decision to make for a coach. And I honestly wasn't sure what Schmetz would do if it came to it. But I've been saying that I think even before game one, I was saying, like, if it comes to it and you go to penalties, you can, it is an option. You can do the thing where you let Steph Fry start and play the game if you think he gives you the best chance to win, and you still want him starting your biggest games because he's your team captain, your club leader, your MLS Cup MVP, all that stuff. You don't have to leave him in for penalties. Like, teams do this. Teams have PK specialists that they will put in a situation like that.
Really
the Netherlands famously
was it Stecklenburg? Yeah.
So you can do that. And to me, I have come down on, I understand why it's a difficult thing to do. I understand why he didn't do it. And Jo on the post-game show, he kind of laid out the rationale of, like, if you do that, you're essentially telling Stephen Fry that you don't trust him in a big situation, in a penalty kick situation, and that's a reason not to do it, which I get that. But at the end of the day, I don't agree with that rationale. I don't. I think that you have a unique situation here, not only just with the format, but mainly Dayne St. Clair is a demon. Okay. This guy in penalty shootouts, he is a shithousery menace.
Oh, he's from the tribe of Debu for sure. Like, he loves him a mind game on a shootout.
He's a demon. He plays the mind games as well as anyone in MLS. All of the trash talking he's doing, all the stuff he's doing, making Alex Roldan move it off the spot. And
he won the shoot. Once he got the ref to, like, be like, no, yes, you actually do have to. It was over.
Yeah,
like
exactly. He was never making that PK after that. He was never making that PK after that. Dayne St. Clair is that's what he does, man. Like, if most goalkeepers going into a PK shootout against that guy, you've almost, like, lost already. It's at the very least a mismatch going into it. Totally. Any PK situation in this series is heavily skewed towards Minnesota United. But you also have a situation where Seattle has their own demon. They're foil to that. Andrew Thomas has all those exact same attributes. Andrew Thomas has been the goalkeeper in penalty kick shootouts 8 times in his professional career, I want to say. Maybe it's dating back to college, but he's been part of decisive penalty kick shootouts 8 times. You know how many of those he's won? 7.
I've got to say majority. That's nuts. That's
7.
Crazy.
He is elite at them. We have seen it. We saw it in US Open Cup. We saw it in Leagues Cup. And it's really, I think it underscores what makes a good PK shot stopper. It is guessing, but it's also demonic shithousery that Dayne St. Clair is the best in the league at, and that tilts the scales so heavily. If you have a way to counteract that, which Seattle literally does, you can't, like, you can't be placating egos here. Like, this, your season is on the line, and there is a mechanism that you have that gives you a better chance to win. It's not about not trusting Stephen Fry or sending a message to Stephen Fry that you don't. Of
course not.
It's about track record. And a guy that's been around as long as he has, he should be able to understand that.
He should. And this is where it comes in, where it's like, you need to decide this before the playoffs start. Like, straight up, this conversation with, like, Thomas and Fry and goalkeeper, like, just everyone involved, that has to happen. Like, if you get to a point where you're in your head about it and you're not sure in a game, like, you're going to err on the side of consistency, right? It's like what is this gambling fallacy, whatever. Like, no, it's like it's leaning into the gambling fallacy, whatever, where it's like, always stick with the option you have. Don't go for door number 2 because it's like whatever % more likely. And it doesn't work that way in a penalty shootout, right? Like, it's not going to be, this is 2/3 as likely. It's going to be less likely statistically because we have all this data and we have careers, and we also can check the calisthenics of the 2 guys and see how are their knees this week. Okay, well, Thomas's are probably a little bit more mobile at this stage of his career, no matter what. And bear in mind, Seattle, you know this, but like Seattle only used 3 subs. So yes, they did obviously have the window available to them. They had the
you can do it, man. There's
numbers.
Like, you don't have to. You literally like it's not a situation where you're like, oh well, we think Fry is the best option to start the game and play in regulation, and if we do that, we like have to leave him in. Like, no, you don't. You literally can make that sub at the very end of the game. Like, you can do that.
I think you're right though. Like you laid out his CV really well, and that's where it gets hard. And maybe there is a deference for, you know, the seniority at that point.
There clearly is. Yeah.
Right. And like that, maybe you're arguing that the benefits of that message are going to make it 2%. Maybe he has the message to give the guys, he hands them the ball that makes them 2% more likely to convert. I don't know, right? Like there's just all these other factors I can see, but like at the end of the day, if you're looking at it with cold analytics, yeah, probably make the change. I'm still waiting to see, like, I think that there are maybe some papers coming out now, like from the more educated hive on like whether or not this is even a good idea, what the effectiveness of changing your goalkeeper before a shootout is. And I will be really interested to see what the data says on that one. But my feels like index on it is like, we saw it work really well for Australia, right? Weren't they the ones who, was that before Qatar, where it was the guy who was kind of like dancing?
I think you're
like
right. Yeah.
Like a blue-footed booby or whatever with his like kind of high knees, whatever, to get the guy really psyched out, and then ended up Andrew Redmayne, that was his name, got them into the World Cup.
That's what you need, a guy who does that shit.
Yeah.
The best I ever have seen, honestly, the best I ever saw was I'm blanking on his name, Argentina goalkeeper in the World Cup final. That
Emiliano Martinez.
Martinez. If you go back and watch that shootout, it is the most legendary, like unreal display of demonic shithousery
and you know what's crazy? He's won like 2 FIFA Goalkeeper of the Year awards after that, and if he doesn't have that shootout, there's no chance.
I honestly,
goalkeeper is winning that trophy.
I loved watching him in that shootout. I have gone back and watched it and just done like the real deep dive on everything that.
How could you not?
Went into that? It's the psychological, the psychological mind games he was playing, all the stuff he was doing, but like, there is an art form to that. And I really think like this has kind of made me realize that's what separates a great PK artist from a lot of like Fry it's just not really in his nature to be the guy who's strutting around talking shit to the guy. Hey, that ball is not placed correctly. Ref, can you move that before Seattle, before Danny Leva's last PK? Did you know this? Dayne St. Clair went up to Danny Leva and the ref and he goes, hey, so if he misses that, they lose, right? Like that's genius, man. I can't.
That's so funny.
Like that's
because that's just like, I'm not looking at the scoreboard. Can you tell me where we're at? Like,
yeah, no, exactly. And again, it's like he's
so good. Like this is something that like Kellen Acosta did this against Mexico once when Andres Guardado was about to kick, and he's like, you know, you're washed, right? And then Guardado misses the kick, and then this is like 21, I think it was. Nations League, like you live for stuff like that, and if you have a guy like that, to your point, if Thomas is that guy,
he can match it.
By the way,
he has it.
By the way, if you're convinced Thomas is the successor, start building that experience, because like you get to a point too where if this isn't going to result in another MLS Cup, I don't know, man. Like, how many more years does Stefan Fry have as an MLS starter? I think that was something we started to maybe ask a little bit more this year. I'm worried.
He wants to play next year.
Which is good and like excellent.
Yeah, sure.
And like, you know, like let me pull up my XG data and just kind of see what that says and the wisdom of that. But I think that you look and you just say at a certain point you gave Thomas the cups. And that's good, right? Like that's how you start with a young goalkeeper, is like you give them a cup, they own the cup, they get to play in the final if they reach the final, these sorts of things. And he's had that experience with Leagues Cup, and that's good. But he needs more of those, and they can't come once a year, and they can't come in the summer in a competition that some teams aren't going to care about and some teams are. Like you need to be putting him in those situations, and this can be a scenario where if you trust Fry's head for 90 more minutes, and if you think he's going to be more locked in and he's going to be less swept up in the moment, that's great. But to your point, if this is what he does well, give him one success in a shootout and he'll be much more confident than the first time he has to come in the run of play. I firmly believe that. So like, I see the benefits of it. I think I understand, like, certainly the Oshon case of just like, this is where you're getting into some murky territory. And at that point, you might as well make a wholesale change. I just think if you have that conversation before the game, if you sit down and you just say, look, this is why, Steph, it's your job to not make us even consider using this, right? Like, to be like, we're going to save our last sub window because you get 3 windows, right? 5 subs, 3 windows, and you have to use a goalkeeper one of those. This isn't like extra time. You can do this in the 120th and you can do your 3 windows. So you have to choreograph that. You have to say our final subs of the game are going to come in the 88th minute or whatever the case is, right? And if the number goes up, don't pout, don't sulk, don't do who was it, Kepa, Aretha Balaga did in that Leagues Cup against Liverpool. You remember that, where he was like throwing a fit because he was going to be subbed off for it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Don't do that. Like, you have to exit with grace. Here's your nearest exit. You walk right by the supporters. You clap for them. You do this sort of thing. You do some sort of handoff to Thomas, make it look good for the camera. Sulk at me when we get to the locker room. No problem. You have to have that conversation in advance. You cannot do this in the game. And you can't catch a goalkeeper unaware.
Hell no. I mean, I think they talked about it and decided that they're not going to do it. They're just going to let it rip with Fry. But I don't know, man. I think that's the right call. I think you have a unique foil to a unique adversary with Dayne St. Clair. This I'm telling you, man. Like,
yeah, fair.
This fair. Guy. I mean, he's been starting for Minnesota United
since 21. I want to say 22
for a long time now. So
he took over for Tyler Miller. That's what it was. So there's
so I mean, like, he's a swaggy goalkeeper. That's like kind of his thing. Yeah. But that pays dividends in these penalties. Just look at his body language and disposition in that shootout, like, comparatively. Yeah. It's a whole kind of different art form that you either kind of have that or you don't. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't think clearly they're not gonna do it, but they might have to. There's a decent chance they're gonna have to go to penalties again. And if they have Andrew Thomas on the bench for that, I'm gonna be questioning.
And I think I understand why. By the way, here's your MLS season, like, advanced data on Fry. He pretty much was like the 15th, 16th best goalkeeper out of, keep in mind, there's 30 of them now. So that's like mid-pack, whatever. But that's what you got this year in terms of like goals prevented, in terms of, I'm not talking shootout rate because he just faced so many fewer shots per game because of the nature of how Seattle plays. But like, in terms of effectiveness, when those shots came in, you're looking at like Patrick Schulte, Daniel from San Jose, Roman Berkey this year, Chris Brady. That's kind of the company he kept. He was above your Hugo Lloris's and your Mitrovic and your Takaokas and your Crepos. I was kind of surprised to see Takaoka that low, by the way, because I thought that he was a finalist for goalkeeper of the year this year, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was going off. I feel like at the beginning,
and he had a negative goals minus XG. That's really funny. Okay.
I mean, like, I thought Fry had a fine year. Like, some people were talking about how much he declined. I never really saw that as much. I feel like he's been pretty much performing at the relative level that he usually does. But
the numbers back that up. Yeah,
I understand the argument of it's not just about like shot stopping ability and stuff. He's a leader on the field. Part of the reason they've been such a great defensive team since he's been the goalkeeper is because of how he leads on the field, how he keeps everyone organized, the communication and the chemistry he has with the center backs, that continuity with that, like that all of that makes sense to have him out there during regulation. But that's where I come to again. Like, this is a case where you can literally have it both ways. Like,
you can.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills a little bit, but I mean, I understand it is tough. It is tough, especially because of Stefan Fry's kind of unique status on the team. Like, he is like this team in a way. One of the main leaders and faces and captains of the team. Yep. So
one of the last like links to the like pre-MLS Cup winning era, even, right? And certainly the first MLS Cup win, right? Like, it's
exactly. He's the MLS Cup MVP of their first ever MLS Cup. He will always have that, but it's at least a compelling coaching dilemma for Seattle's coaching staff, and we'll see how they handle it in game 2. What else did I have on this game, Jeff? I don't think I had anything else on Minnesota Seattle, but
what more is there in a scoreless game? I mean, like, I maintain it's going to be a matter of Seattle actually executing what they're doing well. Seattle did enough to win. Like, I mean, I don't think that Seattle fans are under any disillusion that they did. I don't think Minnesota fans that I've talked to are under any illusion that they did not fully deserve that result based on merit. However, this is a Seattle team that lost a playoff game without conceding a shot. So
as the road team,
it's not the worst result in Sounders playoff history.
Oh, okay. That lost, but wait, what game are you talking about?
RSL? Wasn't it RSL who got passed? Was this another COVID year, so it doesn't count? We don't.
No. You're right.
This is David Ochoa's moment of magic.
Another shithouse, demonic shithouser. Yes, like that.
I know.
That was a very
the height of Ochoa mania. Yeah,
that started Ochoa mania. That was another situation though, where like honestly, like I respect it. It's you gotta have like a couple screws loose to be like that. But Andrew Thomas, he has those screws loose, which is what I love about him.
And trust it, right? And lean into it. But that's what I would say for Seattle is like when I was leaving the press box, I know I said someone else won't be surprised if I see you for game 3. Like I fully expect this one to go to 3. I always did. I see the path for Seattle. I worry that Minnesota kind of got the best version of the if we aren't at our sharpest and if Kelvin can't go 75 plus, this is the result we can expect against a team of this depth and talent. And I don't know if they have that game twice. They haven't been consistent enough down the stretch because of all the rotation and changes and injuries and stuff that they've had to deal with since the window. So I think that Roldan and Vargas needs to be sharper. They just need to be back to their normal selves. I'm not saying that they need to go like Botafogo level. They don't, but they do need to get
to play how they played all season,
3 weeks ago or whatever against not Austin, I guess. Bad example. You need to do what you did against RSL and Portland and New York City earlier in October. All 3 of those games, it was 55% plus dual win rate. Just do that. And they won all 3 of those games, if I remember right. So
I got to, this is what I was going to run by you, Jeff. Tell me what you think of this. This is an idea one of our callers from our call-in show, Hunch Punch, came up with. It's called pre-Ks. It's where you have the penalty kick shootout before the game. And then whoever wins the pregame penalty kick shootout, if it ends in a draw, the pregame shootout decides who wins.
So every game gets a shootout.
No, it's not every game. It's for like a playoff.
Oh, no. Okay, sure. Yeah. No, of course. You're not doing this for like
instead of deciding it by the post-game shootout, you do it before the game. And then the teams know that whatever, like if there's a tie.
So basically it's a tiebreaker in the event of one rather than
that you know about before.
Follows. Yeah. So then a team knows they can't afford to. I mean, that's more fun for the 90. Like I can't dispute that. That's more fun. It's
kind of fire, right?
Yeah. Is it fair? I don't care. Are shootouts fair? It doesn't matter. We're asking the wrong questions at this point. Is it more fun if the shootout happens first and you have the dramatic, if everyone in the stadium knows if it's a draw, that team's going to lose and they are fighting like hell?
That'd be exciting.
That's a better final 10 minutes of a playoff game.
He was
done.
He was pitching that idea, and when he was first talking about it, I was like, "This is going to go off the rails." Then he got to the end of it, and I was like, "That's actually kind of sick."
Yeah,
and then calling it pre-Ks.
Pre-Ks is just amazing branding. That's just so funny.
I actually think like
child mascots deliver the ball. That's what you have to do. The kids who hold the hands as they walk on the field, they are the ones to deliver the ball for the pre-Ks. I'm in favor of pre-Ks. I think they should do it. Jeff, I've kept you for like an hour, so we'll let you go. But I did want to ask before I let you go. Any other of these round 1 series catch your eye? I mean, we got Philly, Chicago, Vancouver are destroying FC Dallas. The San Diego Timbies one is interesting because. Like you mentioned, I think the San Diego status and all this right now is kind of interesting because they fascinate me, man.
They have not been in like great form for a while in the regular season anyway. But they also that Timbies game, they were all up on Portland in the first half, and then Portland got one back. It was 2-1, and then San Diego went up a man. Did not take advantage of that to extend the lead. In fact, Portland actually got pretty close to tying it. So like that was not actually, it probably should have been more one-sided than it was, but it didn't end up being like that. And Portland, I think, probably goes into game 2 still having some belief. And then you got all these weird vibes with Chucky Lozano getting suspended like for a playoff game, which whatever he did it's like Cucho getting suspended for Champions Cup. Like You must have done something because they need you for a playoff game. And if they're going to bench you, you must have really been insubordinate. And so it's like, all right, so they have locker room and off-field drama.
I'm glad that you remembered the Cucho thing because I didn't earlier today. I was actually trying to remember, like, is there ever a time that an MLS team had its star player like throw a hissy fit right before the playoffs?
And Wilfred Nancy benched him. Benched him.
Yeah, and to his credit, he did, and I think it's the right call at that point, right? It's not to send a message to the locker room, but it's send a message to the player, right? Like it's just like a no, like stop, fuck off. We aren't paying you this much money for that. I'm more, I have this like I think there are limitations to where San Diego can take this year, and I think that they've already exceeded a lot of anyone's expectations, including probably their own internal expectations. I think getting Luca De La Torre back onto the field is going to do as much as getting Chucky back into his headspace. I think that having De La Torre helps the midfield. His partnership with Tverskov and Godoy, I guess, beneath too, is like just so.
Oh, I love. Tverskov, is that how you say it?
Tverskov, yeah.
Tverskov, he is so sick. Oh my god.
My best 11 midfield. It was just like it was autopilot. It was like Tverskov, Christian, Roldan, and Evander. Like just no thought. Just that picked itself. This year, it's weird.
I think he might be like the best. I mean, I think
it's one of those where it's like Roldan is like he's a 6 now, but he's also like a very.
It's kind of different. They're different styles of.
They're very different styles. One stays at home, one moves around more.
Yeah. But like in terms of his like long passing and stuff, and just how he kind of pulls the strings for that team, he's elite. So I think they had a hell of a year, but it just seems like between the Chucky drama and they're kind of like not.
Yeah, they're not St. Louis. They're not St. Louis in 23, right? But like, I don't buy into them as much as like Vancouver, LAFC, Seattle. I still think are the top 3 in the West this year, in terms of like high level. And what other series? I mean, like, I think Philly should be scared about game 2 and 3 against Chicago. Like, a good team does not crumple the way that they do, and the way that they did it also, where like Chicago got exploited because. Quinn Sullivan was hurt and he was the right winger. So they were like, Andrew Gutman, you can just overcommit like you always want to do down the left wing, and you can stay down there and basically be a winger and defend when you want to. And I think we'll be okay because we have the 3 center, or we have the team shape for it, whatever. And it didn't work. And they got bum rushed twice in 5 minutes down that right flank while Gutman is backtracking, and it ends in 2 goals. And then they just stop playing. And there's just all these weird mistakes, and Chicago gets back into it because they have individual talent. And Chicago was actually quietly the most effective set piece team in MLS this year. They scored more goals per 100 set pieces than Minnesota did. They didn't generate the same XP, but they were more effective at it, which again, fully flew under the radar. They just took so many fewer set pieces. Like
Berhalter has like got that.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell that team has like some belief about him right now, and their vibes seem like really good.
They have like one of the best vibes of the whole field. This isn't just like the underdogs that might hope. Like they have better vibes than Miami. They have better vibes than like both of the Ohio teams right now. They have better vibes than the Sounders and Minnesota. They have better vibes than San Diego. Like Chicago was like low key one of the most fun teams this year, and they're so flawed, which makes it even more fun to watch this year. And I think that they're going to be top 6 in the East next year. And I think that if they continue that progression, they should finish top 3 in the next year. And that's just a weird thing to think about where the Fire is going, but that's how well they've done it. Watch the Fire, appreciate the Fire. I have no idea where they're playing because they never know where they're playing anymore, but definitely watch them against Philly. I think Vancouver is going to finish that one off in 2. I think Miami's going to finish off Nashville. Nashville just looks absolutely like shook from decision day, and just
they can't mess with Miami. They can't mess
in the first game. Like, yeah, they might save face and get 1 game here, but I doubt it. Cincy, I think Columbus just doesn't have enough going forward to do it. I think that they got Gazdag at the wrong time, and he's the wrong fit for the system. I think San Diego gets through the first round, loses in the second round to Seattle or Minnesota, whoever advances. I think LAFC is going to get by Austin, and I think New York City is going to do it in 2. So that's the bracket.
We got one question for you from Chad here. Jake is asking, does Jeff have any MLS Cup predictions still with Seattle from the West? I believe you did say you were staying with Seattle, but that implies that you still think that Seattle's going to win this Minnesota series. But are you in fact sticking with your Seattle MLS Cup?
I have to. They're still in contention, and I backed them. I had 2 points I could check in. One was in the summer. I definitely wasn't going to do it then. One was right before the playoffs. That was my last chance I could have walked off of them, and I'm just not going to do it because I think that if things still go the way as constructed, I think the floor is higher on what the Sounders can do than pretty much any other team in this field. Because keep in mind, Vancouver is on center backs like 5 and 6 at this point, right? Like they are not playing with like the same defense.
But they're putting like Ralph Priso back there and it like works.
They're playing Dallas, man. Like, calm down. They're playing Dallas.
But
Dallas.
They've had to do this a couple other times late in the season.
They have, and to your credit, you're right. And their model does keep the ball out of the defensive third a fair amount. So at least it's usually mitigated so long as they don't get too many set pieces or transitions. But even in transition, they defend pretty well. But Berhalter doesn't necessarily have wheels. So actually you can kind of get past them. So like this is what it comes back to is I think that LAFC and Vancouver are the 2 teams that project to be most likely to get past Seattle. One of them will be eliminated if Seattle gets to the conference final. You only have to get through one of them. The bracket through them a really good quartet on that side, right? So that was already favorable. So that encouraged me to stick with the Sounders. And then I just think if they get to the Western Conference Finals, they figured out their issues that made them so inconsistent and finished 5th in the West. And at that point, I trust them to win MLS Cup. That's what it came down to. Is like, if I'm going to pick them to get that far, I'm confident enough in them to go all the way. And I look at the East, and Jeremiah and I talked about this on Nos Adietas last week, I think. Like, we don't like the teams in the East. The favorites in the East are all so flawed in ways that I don't think LAFC, Vancouver, and Seattle are to the scale. I think that they've had to adjust, acclimate, and kind of overcome their hardships this year in a way that Miami definitely has never been able to do, period. But that Cincinnati hasn't really done this year to Philly. They hit their big issue late in the year with Sullivan and his injury. So like, I still don't know what the best version of Philly can look like without him in transition. I don't know. I think that there's no truly great team in MLS. There's no one I put in the S tier champs. Like, you look at like late teens, Sounders, and TFC, you'd probably cobble together like some mixed version of each and say that was one of the great teams in MLS. 23 Crew, 2018 Atlanta maybe, and then you go further back, of course, with Galaxy. You have those teams where it's like, you played Madden, right? Like even just when you were a kid, whatever. Like how like when Madden was good, they would bake in unlockable teams, and they weren't always like the Super Bowl champs, but they were just like 98 Vikings. And they
that was so
Air Coryell Chargers so that you could learn who Dan Fouts was and all this stuff, right?
Yeah, you're playing with like Marcus Allen or something.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's like your only chance to play as Marcus Allen in a Madden game like
that. That's the only reason I know who that is because of Madden.
Perfect. But like that's part of the value. And I think MLS needs to do that. It's kind of capsule what their best teams are, what their best seasons are, or whatever. It's not like every team gets one, right? Some teams might have multiple. The Galaxy probably have 3, and Austin doesn't have one yet, right? But I think that you look at the field this year, I don't think we have a team we're going to talk about like that. And that's okay. But I think that we have like 8 or 10 teams that are just that cut below that are probably most people's like indie darling. Like the one that is just like, but most people didn't really pay attention to the Vancouver Whitecaps with Pedro Morales. But if you watched him, or like the Mauro Diaz, Fabian Castillo teams, right? Like that next tier under where it's just like, you really appreciate how they play. You really like what they do. They didn't win the trophies. Jesse Marsh's Red Bulls maybe in time will go down as one of these, but I think the way that MLS has just continued to hire players from that team is going to make it really difficult to forget about them, right? So I think that that's going to be one that will maybe elevate over time and overappreciate. But long-winded way to say, it's an open field this year in a very competitive, entertaining way. I'm more excited for this bracket to progress than any year in recent memory. And I'm still as confident in Seattle to win MLS Cup as any other team, so I wasn't going to walk off them. So I've got Seattle over, I think I put Miami through.
No, yeah. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I looked at your bracket, and it was, which would mean that Seattle would have to go to Fort Lauderdale to win it. Which that sounds. I really hope that doesn't.
That sounds fun
happen. I think LAFC could potentially get talked about in that S tier you're talking about because of the Son Heung-min effect. Like I think the vibes that he's kind of manifested down there with the Bouanga partnership bromance thing And also we all knew he was a great player, but just watching him week in, week out, he's like even better than I expected.
I know, man.
He's so good.
But have you watched Steve Cherundolo coach in the playoffs before?
It's true. Yeah, it's true. I hope what you're saying about Seattle is right. If I was to, I guess my concern with Seattle is, Seattle has peaked this year. We have seen the peak of them. Like,
I think you're right. Sadly.
Well, I don't even think it's a question, not just because of like the vibes and the form that they were in Leagues Cup, but there is no peak Seattle lineup that can reach its full potential that doesn't have Pedro de la Vega in it. There just isn't. So any 11 that they put out for the rest of the playoffs is not going to be to the max level that the team could be. That's just how it is. That being said, that doesn't mean they still have enough to make a run if they can get past this Ramsey ball stuff. They can do that, and I think they still have enough, and I've learned better than to doubt them in tournament settings. This is when they always turn up, and there's been so many games over the years where I've gone into it thinking that they were up against it and that they weren't going to get it done. And it just seems like Brian Schmetzer always pulls it out. So I could very much still see that, but I do think we're talking about a team that has peaked, and there's no way for them to salvage that peak because they're missing their best offensive player.
Yeah.
So most talented.
And it's a shame, right? And he's also the one who, until this, had maybe been the most consistently available throughout the year, right? So it was also like
by his standards,
by his standard for sure. But like he was one of the touch points where it's like Jordan comes back kind of late. It's like, okay, well maybe I have this partnership or whatever. Like Ferreira and the Club World Cup, you build some of that rapport. Like you lose a key player who has that interplay with all these people, and it's going to change how the final third looks. And you just see it. The pass maps that have been coming out from that game, and like how the Sounders team shape their average position, it just looks like a team that forgot to hire a striker that day. Like it truly is. Everyone's in the middle third. All the lines are so tight. It's like exactly what your coach would want, but there should just be one dude on an island who's chasing after it at the end and scoring goals, hopefully. And there just wasn't that player in Seattle's team. Everyone was in.
You're talking about this game one?
Yeah, this game one. It was just like the tightest team.
Is there a way to like filter it from when Danny Musovski came on the field? Because I feel like that solved that.
I think it did. And I fully agree. Yeah.
They looked exponentially better on offense when
I don't know why you don't start him.
I think they actually might. I think they're not going to do the goalkeeper PK specialist sub. They're not going to do that. But I think you might actually see the adjustment of pushing Jordan out wide and playing Moose up top, just because I think it was pretty clear that to whatever extent it's possible to crack the code of Ramsey ball, that was the closest they got to doing it in that game. And the last thing I want to say is there was people giving Moose a hard time for those missed chances at the end of the game, which I get that they were really good chances, and you expect an MLS striker to make those.
You
do.
Sure.
And I was just as frustrated to see him missing them. But like any slander on Moose or on Moose as a player or Moose as a sounder, Moose led the team in goals this year. And not only did he lead the team in goals this year, he bailed this team's ass out. Jordan Morris, you know how many minutes he played this year? Go look it up. It wasn't a lot.
I literally have it in front of me, 842.
842 minutes. Okay. When you get 842 minutes out of your DP9, 98% of teams in this league are chalked. You know why Seattle wasn't chalked when that happened to them? Because of Danny Musovski. All right. So I don't want to hear it about a guy who led the team in goals, bailed the team out, had 17 goals, all comps. Yeah, he missed a couple of pretty brutal chances. He's going to have a chance to make up for it in this game. Let's dial down the Moose slander. That shit is ridiculous. What are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's just he had one of the most effective years of a 9, just in terms of getting in the right spots. Earning like XG at that point is a movement statistic, right? It's getting into the areas where the chances are actually going to hit your body, and he was very good at that too, right? He underperformed his XG, but he had a really, really high XG. So like, and a lot of that actually probably flipped in this last game. He probably did generate a very high XG for that little shift, and that's going to be part of his numbers. I overall still think it's this sport is still largely designed where systems work to funnel towards something, and Seattle's didn't funnel towards anything in game one until Moose got onto the field. And I think that's where you need to bring in someone who does center forward things, gets into center forward spaces, does center forward work, and good things can happen beneath it. And who do you take out for that? Like, maybe it is Morris. Maybe it's just as simple as that. Maybe it's
you pull Rothrock, you move Jordan out wide, and I think you roll Ferreira.
Do you have too many alphas on the field at that point?
No, I don't think
like
so.
Too many players who are going to want to make the final ball or are going to want to hit the shot. Players who aren't necessarily going to be doing off-ball movement. Players who are going to be doing.
I think Moose.
That's probably Moose, but like at the same point, he's also the top scorer, so he needs to be in spots to cash those chances in.
I think. I think. Man, you could make the argument that Georgie Manunga should start instead of Jesus Ferreira in this theoretical setup, and like that would bump Ferreira. Yeah,
it's probably Ferreira, right? Like if you're just thinking of like he's had an inconsistent first year, I think he's actually been a lot better than some people give him credit for since like
I do too. Yeah, I've been
around Club World Cup. I think we actually talked about this around then. It was like I think around here is where he'll catch because he's finally used to his new home, right? And we were right, and now the season's progressed, and I think it kind of does come down to Morris Ferreira. And do you just say, look, because this is an elimination game, but this isn't an advancement game, maybe it does make sense to keep Morris off the bench and just bring it so that you can have the calibrations and the options with the fresh legs. You could decide that. I'm not saying I would necessarily. I understand the case for a couple of these guys. I still just think you maybe need a Manungu or a Rothrock in there just to make the whole thing sing. Like, I think you need someone who's in there who's doing harder, not even harder yards. It's not like any of these guys don't work. It's just like you have your clear goal scorers, you have your clear chance creators. You do need some guys who are also going to be ball progressors. They're going to be outlets. They're going to be dribblers. They're going to be decoys. They're going to be doing thankless shit that's going to free up space in the box for these guys to cash in. And if you have all four of those guys, I think it gets too compact. They get into the same spots. They're all hybrid, flexible players. It was something I really liked about the Ferreira acquisition. I wrote about it at my old outlet. But I think that you risk cluttering it and making it less of a flow. And I think the last thing the Sounders team needs right now is for it to flow slower than it already was in game one.
I'm not as concerned about the stepping on the toes aspect of it because Ferreira, if they do choose to put him out there, he has figured out that wide channel. Like he's a super smart player, and it took him. Yeah, like it took him a while to get it down and like how exactly it works playing with everyone else. But like his soccer IQ is honestly off the charts, like way more than I even thought from like watching him partially at FC Dallas. So like he learned how to play with Rusnak with them. It's sort of like a dual 10 situation. He is not like a normal winger, but they know how to do it. It works. He was very effective at it. And I think Moose and Jordan just tell them to do what they were doing in the Minnesota game. Just be like, do that. And then I think they showed that they could make that work. And then honestly, you got people in chat saying drop Albert Rusnak and put Ferreira at the 10. I don't think there's any chance that a first choice starting 11 wouldn't have Rusnak in it. But I don't hate that. Like I think Ferreira, when they have played him centrally, has looked really good. Like this is I keep saying I'm gonna wrap it up, but
you're good. I've got more Moose to come up with too. I ran some numbers for you, so keep going. Like when people talk about like Jesus Ferreira is like his stat sheet production wasn't that great this year, or Albert Rusnak, people have their we call it the brigade. There's the anti-Rusnak takes, and then also crashing out over the fact that Seattle got clean sheeted in game one. The way I look at it, I don't know what team some of you guys were watching this year, but this was one of the best attacking teams in Major League Soccer. They were
any way that you want to cut it. Like, you want me to throw some numbers at you? Want me to throw some numbers? Because I was looking at this today.
Oh, do it.
I was looking at this today because we got a YouTube comment that pissed me off because they were saying this team,
love an origin story.
This team has a trash striker in Dayne St, and it can never score goals. And it's been a joke of an attacking team for years, and the front office doesn't care, and we can never score goals. Blah, blah. You want to know how many goals the Seattle Sounders scored this year?
How many?
Well, so they scored 58 in league play, which was fifth in the West. So they were a top 5 goal scoring team in the West. 58 any MLS season is a good year offensively. It just is statistically. You literally can't argue with that. You know how many they scored all comps? You want to know how many they scored all comps? And you guys can go double check my math. I checked it a few times. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Try 80. 80 goals. I got 58 in league play, 15 in Leagues Cup, 7 in CONCACAF Champions Cup.
That's 80.
And I know people are going to say, "Oh, well, the league that's inflated by Leagues Cup, and Leagues Cup doesn't count." Yeah, it does count. How does it not count? How does it not count? They were
I got in a fight with an editor about this once on an Italian team. There's something that's like called the Supercoppa Italia that happens in Saudi Arabia over the Christmas week. And it's just like, this is not a real competition. He's like, look, it's all comps. Christian Pulisic scored a goal and got an assist. You got to include it. So yes, it's all comps. If that counts, Leagues Cup counts.
It counts. Like the only argument that where it wouldn't count is this idea of like, oh, well, you inflated it playing against weaker competition. With CONCACAF, you can make that sometimes, like when you're playing these really random teams from like Central America that are just way overmatched on spending and stuff, and then you drop 7 goals on them. Yeah, like that you can argue that inflates it a little bit. Leagues Cup, I don't want to hear about how they're inflated it by hanging 7 on Cruz Azul, who is second on the Liga MX table right now. And we're ranked. Yeah, they were ranked the best team outside of the best non-European team or whatever. Like you can do the doesn't count stuff till your heart's content, but it's not serious. It's not serious. Like this team scored 80 goals this year. They were one of the very best statistically most productive attacking teams in MLS. I don't know what we're talking about with some of that discourse, and
I'm with you on that. But I think part of it is just like you have games like these, right, where ball don't go in.
Right. Yeah, and I get that.
Didn't ball go in? We must have been shit all year. And you look at more. So here's Musovski. Here's what I've got for you in return. Right.
Yeah.
I have filtered it to any guy who took at least 45 shots this year. Okay. So you have to take more than a shot a game and not just like 35. Like, let's not get cute with it. You have to play 900 minutes. I just want to make sure you played in 10 full games. So it's a lot of strikers. It's a lot of wingers. It's a lot of attacking midfielders. Dayne Musovski, of this sample of 50 players, it's 50 players. It's a good number. It's more than one per team. He ranks 11th in shot accuracy, 48.2. This includes the playoffs and the regular season. Okay. The player directly above him, Sam Surridge. The player directly above Sam Surridge, Denny Bouanga. The player directly below Musovski, Kevin Denke. The player directly below Denke, Anders Dreyer. The player directly below Dreyer, Alonso Martinez. Like,
yeah, you might not like. I understand a lot of people might not like that Dayne Musovski kept that company this year. He literally he did. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's the year he had.
I'm not being funny. I'm not skipping
like,
players.
It's not a bit. Like he literally, like when you're talking about Sam Surridge, Kevin Denke, Alonso Martinez, these are the best number 9s in MLS. Now, do I think that Moose is the beneficiary of playing in a friendly system with great playmakers in Rusnak and Ferreira? Yeah. But like, what do you want him to do? Not score him? Like that's right, he had an incredible year. Like not just like goal production wise, but like all the underlying stats they've been putting him with those guys all season. And I get it. People don't want to admit it because it's Dayne Musovski and it's like a funny. But the other thing I've been saying,
like Patrick Mullins a decade ago with DC, right? He had one year that was just an absolute flyer, and everyone was like, "Oh, I don't believe it." And then some team paid way too much for him in a trade, but like. It happens. Guys catch fire. Guys score a lot of goals. And if the ball keeps going in, like, sorry, guys, he's your best striker. Like,
and like the other thing I've been saying about that is like there's been a lot of talk. We've started talking about like off-season future roster management type stuff, and trading Moose is just such an obvious theoretical thing that could happen over the off-season because his value is at an absolute skyrocketed all-time high right now. And you also you had Osaze come in and do pretty much the same thing, which sort of indicates that like the number 9 position in this team on the system, maybe it's a little bit of like plug and play, where if you just get like a standard skill set, you can bank on a certain amount of goal production. But I will say, like, I'm telling you all right now, like, be careful what you wish for with moving on from the Moose era. You be careful what you wish for. There's no guarantee that who they replace him with on the roster, whether it's Osaze or anyone else, there's no guarantee that they're going to be as productive or efficient. Like,
I remember, because I wrote about it, like in my Moves I Like series, we talked about this last time too. Musovski was someone I'd shouted out as like a really good flyer, because you would look at whether it was RSL or his other clubs, he was insanely consistent at getting into good striker spots. And so he was always generating XG because he was making the right run. He's good at finding that space. He's good at shrugging off a defender, and he's good at being able to set himself up for that. That carried over. So to your point, if you find a guy who does that movement well and gets into those spots, I agree with you. It is kind of plug and play. I don't know if Osaze is that guy.
He looked like it, but it was a small sample.
Well, it was like a small sample, but it wasn't an MLS really either. Like he had 22% shot accuracy in MLS play, right? And that's like 9 shots. But like I saw that start against Minnesota, so I also was watching his movement there, and he looked green. He wasn't doing the same sort of patterns of play and all that thing, but
he was like getting there.
But as like other Sounder fans like Mark will want to point out correctly, I will add, there were no designated players on the field for Seattle that day. Like Seattle was totally rotating out of the League's Cup, so like it is a weird game in Osaze's defense, but I think you still need a little bit more sample. Could he be that guy? Yeah. Could you also just replace Musovski with like a true, like, I don't know, complete forward, like Petar Musa, like build, but to scale? I don't know, man. You're not going to find that guy on MLS cap considerations. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, if you're going to try to replicate the strengths of his skill set and find a guy who does all that stuff really well, he's going to probably cost more. That's just the reality of it. Goals aren't cheap. And you can say his value is high, but it also means that his effectiveness is really high. And sometimes this isn't always a stock market. And sometimes we can just want to keep a player who's on a hot streak if we think that he can do it again to scale next year.
Yeah, Jake is saying problem is can't afford Musovski after next year. And if we don't sell him, we don't make money on his contract. And yeah, like trading him, you know, they always say sell your stock at the highest point. Like let's trading him makes all the sense in the world. And there's so many teams that will pay up. So I get it.
I don't think he would be a cash trade candidate. I think every MLS.
Oh, I think he would. Why not?
Because he's 29. So I think every team, and he's due a raise. So every team in MLS is going to say, I'll give you allocation money. I know I'm going to have to spend some of it on this guy too.
They probably get a lot though, don't you think?
What did Columbus didn't trade Ramirez? He left on a free to the Galaxy. I think Minnesota traded Christian Ramirez at a similar age to LAFC for like $750K allocation. Like that's solid money, and that's money that every team would have to offer and still be willing to bring him in.
I want a little more.
And that's your right. And the economy has changed, and times is hard, and you need more allocation money to bring in your allocation food to your allocation table.
The man literally he was playing like Sam Surridge.
1.1 mil of allocation money seems fair. I don't think you're getting real money.
If I'm Craig Wibes, I'm reading that exact list you were just reading. Sam Surridge, Alonso Martinez. Don't you want a guy who can produce like that? We got one.
But if you and everyone else is going to say that he's already at his peak, then I'm paying for a past performance. I'm not going to do that. I'm giving you allocation money.
It would be a fun little negotiation to.
I'm giving you the other side of that negotiation, having just made the bull case for the guy.
The MLM group chats are going to be going off on the Musovski negotiations this offseason. So I don't know. I mean, I think he probably does get traded, but it's not, the grass is not always greener. That's
it's funny. Minnesota would be a good fit for him. They really would.
Yeah, they would. I've been saying Atlanta, San Diego, it could be their Ilosky replacement. But like the teams that need like floor culture setters like Atlanta or Toronto.
Yeah.
I feel like they should be jumping to overpay for a guy like Moose. Like it's way smarter to do that than spend $22 million on Latte Lath or $15 million on Insigne. Like getting guys like Moose, like value guys, is a much better, smarter way to like do that.
And those guys exist. There are there are more of those guys. Like there's probably a guy in the championship who in 3 years could be that guy. You know what I mean? Like they're around. They just need to be good space savants. They need to be good at off-ball movement and first-time finishing. That's your skill set. And I think that America can still develop those guys. Are they doing it at the scale to fuel the national team right now? No. But can they do it at an MLS level and score 10 to 15 goals? There's always been that guy. Like yes, it's replenishable. I don't think you're getting $5 million cash for the guy.
Not five. What about one?
Well, okay. I don't think people are going to do cash trades. I mean, I guess didn't Ibrahim Aliyu go from Houston to Montreal for like $750K cash? And like,
yeah, like it's there, there's those guys that are in the tier slightly below that I feel like are in that like 700 range. And I would argue he's closer to like $1 million.
I mean, like you and I are thinking about it like a functional transfer market. This is such a new market, the cash trade, where like Dejan Joveljic went for $4. He went for $4 million, I want to say, to Kansas City. And it was like the bargain of a lifetime. What would you rather have, 1 Latte Loth or 5.5 Dejan Joveljics? This isn't how it works, but it kind of is. It's just like a no-brainer where like I think teams are going to look now and say, oh, you're taking our starting striker? Okay, what do you want? Like, how much is it worth it to you? You know he won't have to acclimate for a year like Latte Loth did, or like Denke did for 3 months even, right? Like, I think that I don't know, man. I go back and forth. I hear it. I just think a 29-year-old domestic striker where this is his first like true starting caliber 9. I don't think teams are gonna treat him like the second coming of Wando, and I don't think Wando would have ever commanded that fee in his prime, which is a whole different conversation we should get into another day. But like that's good off-season chatter. Actually, what would Wando go for in the cash trade market?
They're gonna try.
I would do a whole 3-hour stream with you of just name some guys and what would they go for the cash trade to defend your take.
Let's do it, man. I'm down. We're gonna have to fill the off-season void somehow. But well, Jeff, I mean, I could stay here talking ball with you all night. But honestly, I want to go to bed now. So let's wrap it up right there. Thank you so much for hopping on tonight and going for that long, man. That was awesome. We'll get you back on here soon. We'll see if there's a Minnesota United Seattle Sounders game 3 back at Allianz Field. Doesn't that sound fun, guys? Another trip to Allianz Field to try and defeat Ramsey ball. It might happen. Find out on Monday at Lumen Field. You can earn the right to go back and do that again, which we're all really looking forward to watching. But Jeff, before we get out of here, what do you got going on 5-a-side for the playoffs? And anything you want to plug or promote in particular, or just tell anyone who wasn't watching earlier where to find your stuff?
So all my stuff now, hopefully for now, we'll see, is at 5-a-sides, which is my Substack. You can find it through my Blue Sky and my Twitter. I have links to it there. Otherwise, I think it's just jeffrueter.substack.com. Nice and clean. Rueter. People are spelling that wrong more again. I don't know why. Otherwise, every Tuesday I am on the Total Soccer Show talking MLS. So it's me, Joe Lowry, Taylor Rockwell, chopping it up. We're covering every game, and we already got through. You can listen to a whole 5-minute section on Minnesota Seattle, probably that's already up there as well. I recorded that one early in the morning rather than late at night, so maybe I'll sound different. Who knows? And yeah. Thank you. A lot of you have reached out lately. I think that actually I've like tracked metrics, and Seattle is one of my most like followed. I have more people following me from Seattle, and like a few people in Seattle have been very gracious with like, I hope you're okay after this. So thank you. Any of you who've reached out, I appreciate it.
Seattle's
including you, by the way. We've texted about it. I bet. I appreciate it.
Oh, of course, man. I mean, you do some of the best work of anybody covering this league. So always great to pick your brain, and you got the you watch Eric Ramsey ball every week, so there's no one better to
I take some off weeks, I'll admit, but yeah.
Well, here's to a more goals, I guess, in game 2. I don't know if it's going to look that much different.
I hope there's a goal at a minimum.
Can we get one goal? I don't even care who scores, but let's just get one goal. But maybe we'll, God willing, if there's a game 3, maybe we'll get you on here for that, or just maybe to talk some playoffs as we get a little deeper into it. We can line that up.
You name it.
Yeah, thank you for the time. I'm gonna hang out for like 5 minutes just to say bye to everybody. But thanks for coming on, and we'll catch you soon.
Sounds good.
Take care. That was Jeff Rueter, formerly of The Athletic, now of the Substack 5-a-side. Everyone go toss him a sub. Great stuff. I mean, I told him I would only keep them for 30 or 40 minutes, but we got cooking. We got cooking on Danny Musovsky cash for trade proposals, which the fact that we still got 50 of you guys watching that's awesome. Appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. Another banger stream, as always. Let's see, what do we got going on this weekend? The game's on Monday. I think we're probably going to do what we did for this last Monday game, which is have kickoff 8 a.m. on Monday be the sort of pregame lead-in show. It's not a lot of shelf life, but I thought that was kind of fun. The day of match day stream, so we'll probably do that on Monday, and then we'll do our call-in show on Monday night as usual. It's kind of crazy days, 2 streams in one day, but Monday night footy, I guess, in the playoffs. That's how we have to do it. Are there other playoff games this weekend? Should I do some like watch-along stuff? I guess there are games on Saturday, and it's a pretty good slate. We got Nashville, Miami, Portland, San Diego, Chicago, Philly. Maybe I'll do a Saturday watch along for some of those games. 7 games this weekend. No one doesn't always come on Under the Lights. He has a couple times in the last couple weeks, but most of the time this is just me rocking solo or with random guests. But yeah, all right. I'll let you guys know about a watch along, but if not, we'll be back at it 8 o'clock Monday morning for your game 2 pregame show. This could be a wrap, folks. This could be a wrap for your 2025 season. Could be it for the boys. But I also will never bet against this team at home in a playoff game. I definitely will not be doing that. I've learned better than that. I think the team's going to be pretty pissed off too. I think as tilted as we all were watching that game, they're probably even more tilted. So hopefully they come out, channel that, look more like the 2025 Seattle Sounders that we've seen at their peak in this game than they were able to in Minnesota. I really think if you start Moose in this game and you kind of just run it how you were running it towards the end of that Minnesota game, I think you'll get one. And once you get one against this team, they will wilt. They're not up for the smoke of playing from behind. They're not. What they're going to try and do, I mean, they're going to set up in that low block. I can tell you guys that. That's going to be the lowest of the low blocks. That block is going to be, if we're talking bus wise, the status of what the bus is going to be, it's going to be parked. But it is what it is. They're not the first team to do that. They're the first team to be these radical extreme ideologues about it that I've seen in MLS. But it ain't nothing new to see a team roll into Lumen Field like they're going to do and sit in that low block, give Seattle the ball, and try and troll farm set pieces. That's what they're going to do. So, I guess at a certain point, we can complain about it. We can be salty about it. I've been complaining about it. I am salty about it, but you got to score on them. That's it. If we have to do another penalty kick shootout against the Demon, Dayne St. Clair, I'm not going to be happy about that. I'm not gonna be happy. Let's get this shit done in regulation. Go back to Minnesota. All right, fine. Why not? Why not? I'll hang out a little more. I'm not doing shit. What night is it? Thursday, 9:45. Would love some chatter on the best setup and strategy to break their low block. Here's the thing. I think the changes you make are the changes that you made at the end of game one. But I also, I was sort of getting at this when I was talking to Jeff. I don't think they had this like crazy bang their head against the wall type game against the low block as people are saying. They racked over 2 XG, which, you know, I understand some people are like are going to say that that's meaningless if you don't score. Like, yeah, yes, but like would you deny that they had really good, really clear-cut chances in that game? Those Moose chances, how much better of a chance do you want? What better breaking down of the low block can you do than that? The chances were there. Like, you can just do that again, is what I'm saying. Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel on that. I think you do start Moose because of how much better the chance generation looked when he was out there. I really do think you have got to make the adjustment, be proactive about making that adjustment, push Jordan out wide. And it's not like he's not a 9 anymore thing. Now we're putting him as a winger again for this specific matchup. Jordan playing in that wide channel and combining with Moose. That's how you fight their low block. And you also, I would like to see them run at them a little more and get out in transition. It's very hard to do against that team. That is one thing that they are good at, is limiting those situations and kind of not letting game states get out of their control. They're good at that. They're genuinely good at that. And they also have a demon in goal. He's a demon. Spawned from the gates of hell. I say that in like a complimentary way. I like you have Dayne St. Clair is he's a dog. Like, I'm not gonna lie. That dude, watching him in that shootout, like, you are a freaking maniac. That's how it's done though, man. That's how you got to go to that crazy place to be a PK specialist. You got to have a couple screws loose, like Andrew Thomas does. Does Jesus play the left if you put Morris on the wing? That's kind of what I was thinking about. This is the tough thing, because Jesus has been most effective on the right, but you got to put Jordan there. So do you bump because I want Jesus on the field. I think but like, he hasn't played or looked as effective as much on the left. But I also don't think that means he can't do it. It's the same idea, right? It's not like he would have to do. He also, it's not like you can't think of it like him playing it as a conventional winger. It's not what he's doing. He's closer to a 10, whatever side he's playing on. So at a certain point, does it really matter what side he's listed as on the lineup graphic when he's kind of floating around anyway and playing that position more as a dual 10 than a pure winger anyway? See what I'm saying? Like, I could see why there would be hesitation to run him on the left, because he hasn't done it a lot this year. But I think he can do it. I think you roll Jordan on the right, Rusnak as the 10, Jesus on the other side of that, on the other side of Jordan, Moose up top. That's what I think you do. That's what I think you do. And you have Rothrock, Ryan Kent, and Georgie as subs. That's kind of nice. Here's the only thing I would say, man. Like, we're talking about playing matchups right now. It's not like what is your best 11. I would almost argue Georgie is better for this matchup than Jesus, as far as to the earlier question of how you break down the low block. Guys like Jordan and Georgie who have that pace, and Georgie's got very, very good 1v1 ability. Jordan can stretch the field with runs in behind. Those types of skill sets, I think, are theoretically better in a matchup like this against a team like this than Ferreira's best attributes, what he brings to the table, which I feel like are more effective in against teams that actually try and play the sport, which most teams that Seattle plays do, but this team doesn't. So you could argue that in this case, Georgie could be the play there. Runs in behind where? Yeah, there's not going to be there's going to be that's sort of the thing. There's not going to be a lot of opportunities to do that, but when there is, it's good to have a guy out there who can do that. They do kind of there is individual sequences in a game where they kind of try and play a little bit. It's like, probably like 4 or 5 times in the game where they're going to think they have what happens is what they're doing is trying to troll you into making a mistake and giving them counterattacks. That's what they're doing. And counterattacks to either score on the counter or try and win a free kick and score off that. So when you have those individual situations in the game where they're busting it, and you have the elite double pivot that's so good at pressing and winning the ball back in dangerous areas and springing you out the other way, that's when you pounce. That's when Jordan goes vertical, you hit him on that go route. Other than that, I don't see how you score against these guys. I don't know how anyone did it this year. Seattle scored on them twice the first time they played. One of those was a Georgie own goal. I don't even remember. Let me look up that game real quick. Who the hell scored in that game other than the Georgie own goal? KKR. Oh. Okay. I remember that goal. Why don't we watch it, chat? Why don't we pull it up? See how they did this. What happened in this game? Okay, Minnesota went up 1-0, 2-0. All right, here's this KKR goal. What happened with this? Oh, they don't really show the sequence that led up to it. Well, there you have it. It did happen. Can we get a replay? Okay, see, I think this is actually a good example. I don't remember what happened before this, but what you have is clearly there was a situation where look how disorganized they are. They're not in a block right here. Somehow Seattle was able to get them disorganized, and loop this ball over the top to, is this Jordan who puts in this assist? Who puts in this assist? Oh, it's De La Vega with hair? Yeah, that was De La Vega with hair. Okay, but this is what Jordan can do. See, I'm glad we pulled this up. This is De La Vega. This is hair flowing De La Vega right here. But you just tell Jordan to do this, this is exactly the type of shit he and Moose were doing at the end of the game. You have them scrambling right here. You have them scrambling. There are going to be situations, very few. Most of the time, you're going to see 5 of them just across the 6 right here, all just chilling. But like right here, you have them. You got De La Vega putting it in, KKR. This is how you do it. They can do it. They can score on this team. They did score on this team. It can be done. You just it's tough. It's tough. This is probably the most frustrating team in the league to try and score on right now. It is. All right, guys, I'm going to call it right there. I've been ripping for 2.5 hours. So I'm going to call it a night. Great stuff. We'll catch you on Monday for kickoff if I don't see you for any watch along content this weekend. And then on Monday, we find out if the Seattle Sounders season stays alive or if that's all she wrote for 2025. I'll be honest, when I was talking about how Seattle's peaking, like, if they lose this series, it'll be tilting, but it's whatever, man. I guess sometimes you're going to get Ramseyed. It's the new way of Major League Soccer now. But we'll talk about that time when it comes. It's not over yet. There's at least one more game. So I will catch you guys for the next one. Thanks for tuning in. Please like the video if you have not. I don't know how many likes we got on this video yet, but it's not enough. Like the video. If you're watching and you haven't subbed to the channel, sub to the channel. Check out our interview with Katie Wilson that just went live on our page earlier this evening. Great interview. Mayoral candidate, longtime political punditry podcast. Check it out. And I'll catch you guys for the next one. Love you all. Have a good one. Peace.
Some people come to Lumen Field for the tactics, for the soccer, the atmosphere. And some come for Paul Rothrock's hair. Me personally, I come for both, because I have agendas to push. Live soccer isn't just better, it's way more personal. From making friends to becoming the guy in your section that's just constantly yelling about advanced statistics. Get tickets to any Sounders match by visiting lobbingscorchers.com/tickets. You support the pod, our agendas, the vibes, and the chaos.